Morning, morning, morning. Morning all. Truth Speaker 27, morning. Root Trude, morning to you. Morning, Rookman. Cyril Mayer. That's Angela Carty, morning to you. Glenn Richardson, morning, sir. Wazid, morning to you. Morning, Roxanne. Thank you for my brews. I'll have your song soon, Roxanne. Lennox Danny, morning. Arlene Lewis, Pauline Buckmeyer, morning to you. Carol Boyce John, 123, morning. Kathy Belfon, morning. Marilyn McAllister, morning, Marilyn. Neil Francois, always present. Morning, Sir Marlene Panton. Arthur Lucian James, morning to you. See. Jeremy Lewis, March France, morning, guys. Anna Sisnat, morning, Anna. The real Raga, morning to you. Annette Beard, morning. Leon Joseph, morning, Sir. Gerald Pascal Manswell, morning. Roxanne, what's with the eyes? Winston Bachelor, morning. Winston, what can I see? I'll reserve comment. Rutrud, Keelan Jackson, Pamela O'Connor, morning to you guys. We have some rain on this side, Leon. From since last night, we got some during the course of the night, which is good. Even except for those giant African snails who love just a little sprinkle, and they come out wherever they were hiding. Hyacinth Richardson, morning. Leland Patrick, morning to you. Patty Kutu, morning. Let me see who we have here. Sarah Richards, morning, Sarah. Rudolph Barnett, morning. Diane Charles, morning, Diane. Natasha Penny, Christopher Siffy, Claire Carrington, morning to all of you guys. Morning, Carol. Yes, good rainy morning, Carol. Finally, some rain. I know they said that this was supposed to be a rainy, dry season, but apparently the clouds didn't get our memo. Gemma White Isaac, morning. Will Durant, morning to you. Jenny Joseph, morning. Dexter James, morning, sir. Adriana Alexis, morning. Denise Cummings. Alison Boyce, morning, guys. Carol Bucco, morning, Carol. Good morning to His Excellency, the President of Pleasantville, Nigel O'Connor. Morning, sir. I hope that you are holding strong. I know today is the homegoing service for Mauricia. Yeah, so our thoughts and prayers remain with you and her family. And yeah, guys, yeah. I know, boss. I know. Been down that road. Marjorie Johnson, morning. Michelle Sears, morning to you. Joy Ragunanan, morning, Joy. GT, morning. Yes, we welcome the rain. Terry Moore, Joan Austin, Scotty Tash, Patsy Edwards, morning to you guys. Claudia Jeffrey, Ruth Fronton, morning. Heather Lee, Julian Parker. Marlene West, morning to you guys. Clayton Smith, Marva James, morning, guys. Ambrose Blanc, morning, sir. Alison Rogers, John Keto, Dish Rubin, Holly Legol, Lister Sidney, morning to all of you. Terrence Swan, morning, sir. Leon Graves, Helen Faria Trotman. Roxanne, that's his alias, Thanos. Oh my gosh. So let me jump into it one time, folks, because it's already 6:45. So we're really into the silly season, and what I have learned. Oh, should I even say I learned? All right, yeah, I'll say that over the last couple of days is that, in large measure, we are inherently a corrupt society. And I say that because I've seen posts on Facebook from people who I thought had morals and principles. One individual in particular is a gentleman with whom I would have shared a radio studio with. In 2015, we were joint hosts of a program on Power 102. The program was originally hosted by Lindira Udit at the time when she was deputy political leader of the ILP, and then she became the political leader. And then when she left, she gave up the show, of course. And Mr. Warner had asked me to take it over. Of course, at that time, I was also on Sunshine Hour on 91.9. More so the afternoon host, but there were times when I would be called to host the morning show. And this individual also, whenever I was called to host the morning show because Dane and couldn't do it, I would call on this guy to join me, either himself or Rika Ramjit. And I was surprised to see that over the last couple of days, some of the very issues that and some of the ills that would have been committed by the past administration, ills that he would have very strongly condemned while co-hosting those programs with me, that today he's willing to cast a blind eye to it, set it aside. And he's now posting rubbish, lies on social media in support of that party. And so I called him out on it because I saw he put up a post last night. There's a post they're running a side by side. Let me see if I get it here. More and more I see I'm going to need to ramp up. And as much as I don't like getting up early, but it needs to be done, right? So let me just tell you about this thing. So they have a side-by-side thing, right? This. One helped the country whilst the other took it away. So they have laptops, 0 under Dr. Rowley, laptops, 95,000 under Kamala, VAT on food, 12.5%, VAT on food, 0%, schools built, 1, schools built, 106, diesel, $3.41 per litre under Dr. Rowley, diesel, $1.50 under Kamala. Job loss, 100,000, jobs created, 55,000. Petrotrin closed, Petrotrin in operation. Increase old age pension, 0. Increase in old age pension, $1,000 under Kamala. Wage negotiation settled, 0. Wage negotiation settled, 135. And then he sends this with the caption, there must be more, right? And I would have addressed, interestingly, I'm the only person, it seems, who is engaging his posts. It speaks volumes. So I would have addressed some of these items, for instance, the laptops where it says 0 under Keith Rowley, and I would have addressed that before. Kamala Persad-Bissessar boasts of having distributed 95,000 laptops over 5 years. Keith Rowley and the PNM administration, the most up-to-date release that I would have gotten, which is about 2 years old, and I'm sure that figure would have been amended because the distribution of laptops is an ongoing process, albeit this administration is distributing laptops on the basis of need, right? Not just we give out laptops to say that we gave out laptops, which is what the UNC did, the People's Partnership did. But we know that there was no supporting infrastructure for that laptops. It was not incorporated into the curriculum. There was no internet access in the schools really for the students. So you just gave out laptops, but the necessary infrastructure that was needed to incorporate these laptops into the teaching system was not there. So, as I said, the last release that I would have seen from the Ministry of Education was that some 79,000 laptops had been distributed over a 3-year period, right? 79,000 laptops. So when you hear them talking this garbage about go Kamala give out laptops and Rowley take away the laptops from the students, rubbish. Some 78,000 laptops and tablets, 79,000 were distributed to students and teachers, right? Students and teachers, because this administration recognizes that teachers have needs as well. As I encountered a teacher a couple of days ago on one of my walkabouts. Yeah, so VAT on food, 0%. You all have heard me read the article on countless occasions. and you could go and Google it for yourself, VAT on food flops, where this measure, where Prasad Bisesa would have removed VAT supposedly on 7,000 food items to reduce the cost of living, and that didn't last very long. The benefits derived from that didn't last very long, and the article spoke to that. They would have interviewed the Minister of Trade of Agriculture at the time, and who was also trade, and he indicated that, well, if in fact the prices have gone up higher than what they were before the VAT was removed, then that is most unfortunate. And the article went on to explain why that was so, the price gouging that was taking place by some wholesale distributors and passing it on, of course, to the retailers. And the amount of money, over $400 million, was forfeited in revenue for the government for a measure that ultimately did not benefit the citizens and worked out to be against or inimical to their well-being. So, and what were the 7,000 food items? Up to now, you're actually fully done. So none of them could tell you 7,000 food items. And who goes to the grocery at the end of the month and purchases 7,000 food items? Nobody. And all of the basic food items that VAT was removed off of, the basic food items that the average citizen purchases, this administration ensured that it remained that way. Non-VAT. Non-VAT. In fact, if you go and you Google zero-rated items Trinidad and Tobago or non-VAT items Trinidad and Tobago, you would see that there is a release from 2016, I think February 2016 or so, maintaining the list of items, basic food items like the rice and the flour and all of these things that remained VAT-free. All the other things that Dr. Rowley spoke about that VAT would have been imposed on or reinstituted on is things like luxury items in large measure, things like mushrooms and caviar and macadamia nuts and all of these different things, which the average citizen doesn't buy. When you go to the grocery today and you look, you would see a lot of these things are banded offers. Buy one, get one free close to expiration because it's sitting on the shelves and nobody is buying it. Or it's not being purchased in large quantities because the average citizen doesn't buy these things. But they don't talk about that. And so I would have drawn these things to his attention. Job loss, 100,000 jobs created, 55,000. And as Brian reminded me, I have to go through that list with you all of the number of jobs that were lost within the first 6 months of the People's Partnership coming into office. Almost 5,000 jobs. But they don't ever talk about that, unfortunately. The 9,800 jobs that were lost as a result of the decision, the foolhardy decision of the People's Partnership to proceed with the cancellation of the smelter. 9,800 jobs based on what would have been provided through the plant and the fence line communities and all of these different things. Those are just those. In addition to all of the other jobs, the spill-off jobs that would have come about. All those jobs were lost, but they don't talk about that. But they put in this stupid thing here and sharing it with gay abandon. Increased old age pension, 0 under Keith Rowley and $1,000 under Kamla. But again, we know that when Kamla Prasad Bisesa left office, the income ceiling was $4,500, which meant that if you were receiving an NIS pension or pensions otherwise, the maximum that you would have been able to get had to be a figure that would take you to $4,500, because at that time the government was of the considered view that a senior citizen can live comfortably on $4,500 a month. So if you were getting $3,000 NIS pension, the most you could have gotten from the senior citizens grant would have been $1,500 to bring you to the $4,500 ceiling. This administration increased that ceiling to $5,500, which means that somebody who is receiving $3,000 from NIS as their sole source of income would have been entitled to get the additional $2,500 to take them to the maximum ceiling. Again, they don't talk about that. But even if you explain that to the fully dones, it's difficult for them to comprehend. Right? They don't understand that part. They know, the only thing they know about increase, they want to see the pension is $3,500, add money, add something to that. That is all we want. Right? But when we look at what the revenue position was between 2010 to 2015, when oil was $100 and something a barrel for the majority of that tenure, and you had gas prices in the range of close to $8, and so on, which this administration hasn't had to enjoy. Because you see, they were spending 60 plus billion, $65 billion a year. And this administration, when they came in, had to reduce expenditure in order to be able to manage what we had. Because oil prices had fallen precipitously. The fall had started since 2014 under that administration, but they continued to spend. Remember the time in June of 2014 when oil prices started to fall, they issued instructions to every ministry to reduce this expenditure by 7%. But was that followed through? No, because when we look at the Auditor General's report for 2015 and we look at the amount of money that was spent in the 2 months in the lead up to the general election, it was ridiculous. So any savings that would have occurred as a result of those ministries that may have implemented that 7% reduction in expenditure was wiped out because they went on a spending spree to the point where they were borrowing hundreds of millions of dollars to give out in contracts to fund their election campaign, which is why Rudal Munilal now finds himself before the court facing a civil suit where some $400 million would have been borrowed by his ministry to give to contractors, right? And we saw what went on there: bid rigging, fraud, conspiracy, cartel behavior, all of these different things. We read when they lost office, the contract mill at EFCL, the Education Facilities Company Limited, where they were backdating contracts for which payment had already been made, but contracts had not been signed. They were paying contractors in advance, to get a kickback, to thief money, and then set up this contract mill. And one wonders how long this contract mill was running, because they couldn't have put it in place after they lost the election, which means that this contract mill was in place prior to the general election of 2015 with a specific mandate to generate contracts and backdate it so that you could give it to these contractors who had already been paid, many of them, so that they could now come before the new administration and say, I have a contract here for this work. The work is in progress, or the work has been completed. I'm now presenting my invoice for payment, when you already got payment before without the paperwork, before the contract was signed. So double payment. We saw what would have taken place with respect to the construction of the Point 14 highway, where they took $7 billion from the Treasury, when we could have gotten funding from the IADB for that. But we understand why they took that course of action, because had they taken the loan from the IADB, there would have been scrutiny. They would have had to account to the IADB for all of the money, every dollar that was spent, so that when they engaged in foolishness and blatant corruption, and we would have read families whose property they supposedly purchased, but a lot of these properties were not even in the pathway of the highway and did not need to be acquired by the state, but they went and they acquired it anyway, and in many instances would have, rather than paying the household one payment for the property, would have paid every single member of that household, would have received payment for the same property. So if they value the property is $1 million and you have 5 people living in that house, each member of the family got $1 million. So the state, you, the taxpayer, ended up paying $5 million for a property that was valued at $1 million. And that was not isolated incident. It was reported there were several, and this just wasn't hearsay. This was reported in the newspaper. This is the kind of thievery that was taking place. These people invented new ways to thief. I always recall the late Wayne Chance, when he used to host his program back when he was alive, and he used to host the program, his program on 95.5, talking about how he was looking for support from the state for vision and mission. And he would have applied to a particular ministry for funding, and it was approved. And then he got a call telling him, well, we're giving you this amount. But the question was asked of him, do you have an attorney? Does Vision and Mission have a lawyer? And I think he said no. And they said, well, okay, we will provide a lawyer. So here's what's going to happen. We are going to issue Vision and Mission a check for X amount of money. And then you, Vision and Mission, will then write a check for X amount to this attorney, and the invoice or whatever it is would state that this is for legal services that has been provided for the attorney. So if they give Vision and Mission $500,000, they tell them, here what? $400,000 is for you, a lawyer is going to come and present you with an invoice for legal services provided to your organization for 100,000. So you will write him a check for 100,000 and you keep the 4. And chance say, yeah, I was in jail already. I know what that is like. I don't want to get locked up. But this is the things that they were doing. Innovative and creative ways to thief and to get kickbacks. I mean, I would never have thought of something like that, right? So you have a crooked lawyer on the side who ready to do this thing, to issue a fake invoice to a non-governmental organization that is doing good work, to assist in the rehabilitation of persons who were previously incarcerated. And you realize you want to use this organization as a funnel to steal taxpayers' money. These are the things that they were doing. And up to this date, the woman who was in charge of that administration has not addressed these matters. And when it is brought before her, what does she do? Go take it to the police. If you have evidence, take it to the police in this dismissive manner. Is this somebody who you think could be prime minister again? In this dismissive manner, the same thing she did when Eleanor Donaldson Honeywell sent her the letter expressing concerns with respect to the goings on in the office of the Attorney General, where briefs are being paid willy-nilly, where for years we know the practice would have been that briefs submitted by attorneys who did work for the state, sometimes it would take months, it would take years for them to get their briefs based on the availability of funds. In fact, when Ram Logan came in as Attorney General, and all of a sudden he was buying properties here, there, and everywhere, and the media approached him on that matter, and he indicated that the state had been owing him several briefs for a number of years, and that he would have gotten that money having become Attorney General himself to himself. He's Attorney General now. He can give that authorization to pay these briefs, and he called the department, whatever, and say, well, yeah, pay me all the money, all I have for my pay me my money. Himself instructing himself to pay himself. And so you all would recall that newspaper article that spoke about a particular high public official who would have taken a series of mortgages prior to coming into office or thereabouts. And then some of those mortgages were paid off within 6 months, where the bank would have raised a red flag with the FIU because it had been reported that this individual had been paying $40-something thousand in cash on an almost daily basis in different banks, going to different branches and paying this money to pay off these mortgages. And it raised a red flag, of course, because one, you're going to different branches around the country to make these payments to the very same account and the period of time in which these payments were being made. And in cash, where was that money coming from? Where was that money coming from? And then the individual would have indicated from a particular, that they were withdrawing the money from a particular bank where accounts were held. And this bank, where the mortgage was held, where the money was being paid every day, would have made their inquiries of that other bank, and the bank said, no, such withdrawals have not been made. All of these things that were taking place and should have been the subject of a police investigation. What went on with all of that? What went on with all of these things? And some of you all need to be reminded. But what surprised me is this individual who I told you I thought had a man who I thought had morals and principles, but he has shown, and and what he has done is helped me to realize that in some cases I'm a poor judge of character. And he was able to fool me into believing that he had principles and morals. Because when you could turn a blind eye, and the first post that he put out, not the one that I read for you all just now, the first post that he put out, can't remember exactly what it was, but I posted 2 articles under his post in the comments. 2 articles, newspaper articles, which spoke to wrongdoing on the part of 2 potential candidates, UNC candidates. Those 2 seats are yet to be declared. Why, I don't know, because they are sitting MPs. And when I posted those 2 articles and I asked him, are you comfortable with either of these gentlemen serving as a minister in government after April 28th? And you know what his response to me was? No time for distractions. No time for distractions. That the PNM has to go. So 10 years ago, you would have been against this sort of behavior. 10 years ago, you would have roundly and soundly criticized this sort of thing. You would have condemned it. when you and I were sitting opposite each other in a studio, a radio studio. But today, you are willing to capitulate at the altar of expediency. Today, you are willing to abandon all morals and all principles for the sake of what? You know what he vexed for? Because up to now, the families of the 4 divers have not been compensated by Paria. So he says to me, that cemented it for him, that he can't support the PNM because the Commission of Inquiry cost $18 million and not 1 red cent was paid to the families of the divers. And I would ask him and remind him, because I know sometimes he listens. $18 million spent on a Commission of Inquiry. Who wanted the Commission of Inquiry? When that incident took place with the divers, first thing Dr. Rowley proposed was to put together a 3-man investigative team, right, of 3 industry professionals to do an investigation into the matter and present a report to the relevant authorities. The UNC and the minions came and said, nah, we don't want that. We want a commission of inquiry, because the government could put 3 people who are pro-PNM or pro-government, and they would be able to control them, and they could pay them to generate a report that says what they want. So we don't want no 3-man investigative team. We don't want no 3-man inquiry. We want a full commission of inquiry. And the Prime Minister said, well, all right, if you all don't trust the integrity of the people that we put, because you know they figure, like just like them, that everybody in this country has no integrity, right? So they're always suspicious and casting aspersions on people. So they rejected that. And that would not have cost $18 million. But they were the ones, the very party that this individual, right, who has shown me that he is unprincipled, has no scruples, as a dishonest man, and is willing to support dishonesty. And if he's listening to me, I want to tell you good morning, sir, but rest assured, they say politics is mash up friendship, but our friendship done. Because you have shown me that you are willing to support dishonesty. I ain't not supporting that, and I don't want to be friends with nobody who doing that, right? So I'm letting you know now. After the election, whatever is your outcome, and if I'm successful, which I will be, don't call me and offer any congratulations, sir. I don't want any congratulations from somebody who is unprincipled, and you have shown me that you are that, right? I don't want any talk with you. But I'm not even going to engage your posts anymore. Shame on you. I cry shame on you for your dishonesty. That you would refer to blatant corruption as a distraction. But coming back to the issue of this commission of inquiry that cost so much money, it was UNC that wanted that. Don't complain now. What the Prime Minister had proposed would not have cost anything close to that. But you all were clamoring, you want commission of inquiry, and now you vex because the commission of inquiry cost so much money, and you, according to you, the families of the divers have not received 1 red cent. The Prime Minister would have met with the families, members of the families, and he would have indicated that there is a process for them to be compensated. The government can't just jump out and say, well, okay, Prakash Ramada, so pay each family $5 million, so let's just give them $5 million. It doesn't work that way. Now, Prasad Bisesa is mounting platforms and saying, put her in office, and then they get in office, she's going to compensate the families. On what basis? On what basis are you going to compensate? Because the lawyers say give each family member $5 million, so you're just going to do that? So if they decide to up the ante, Prakash Ramada, let's say he's part of your administration, and you say pay them $10 million. Are you going to pay each family $10 million for what? For the sake of what? Getting an applause from the wider population? And these are the populist strategies that they intend to use to win an election. But Dr. Rowley, former Prime Minister Dr. Rowley, made it abundantly clear. He said that there is a process. Paria has insurance to cover these things, but the insurance companies wouldn't require certain things, right? They require certain bits of information. And one must now also take into consideration the fact that since charges are to be proffered against Paria and the LMCS, Paria must now be very measured in how they treat with this matter, because payment of compensation in some instance basically is an admission of guilt. And if charges are to be proffered against you and you are now to defend these charges in a court of law, then how do you do that? Because it's like you say, well, okay, I'm accused of killing a man and I compensated his family. So that is me admitting guilt for the individual's death. So how do you defend that? So there is a new element, because at the time when that decision of compensation was being contemplated, charges had not yet been proffered against Paria. Now we are in a new dispensation. So you paying compensation is you admitting and taking responsibility for the loss of these men's lives. And that could impact ultimately your defense. So this also too has to be discussed. And therefore the insurance company would want to weigh in on this, because if it is the payout compensation, they may be able to, but they too must tread lightly. And Paria cannot just come and say, well, okay, because of sentimentality and the population is sensitive to this, and we want to create we want to save fees, so we will give each family $5 million for what? For popularity. You set a precedent, so it means that anytime in the future a similar event takes place, lawyers could now run to the court and say, well, we reference the case of Paria versus so-and-so, and Paria would have paid each family $5 million, and therefore there is precedent to this. So we are starting at $5 million for compensation. But there is a process to be able to analyze and assess how much compensation should be paid. One of those things would be to take into consideration the ages of some of these men, what their monthly salaries were, what their projected retirement dates was, and therefore how much money would they have earned from this company based on the salary that they were earning at the time of their deaths to retirement. How much does that work out to? I think one of the divers was probably in his 50s, so he was close to retirement. So let's say if he had planned to work for 4 years more, 5 years more, as the case may be, and his monthly salary was, I don't know, let's say $10,000 a month. That's $120,000 for the year by 5 years or 6 years, right? So this is how much he would have earned. And yes, you say you can't put place a price tag on a person's life, but again, when you deal with sensitive situations like these are the things that must be taken into consideration. But what is not being discussed is the fact that LMCS, the employer of these men, charges have also been proffered against this individual and this company. This individual who has close links to the United National Congress. The wife of the owner of LMCS was at one point in time the chairman or the chairwoman of the UNC's Women's League. So there are close ties there. And we would have read in the newspaper article that required by law is that every company must have a workmen's compensation and public liability policy. I know that for a fact, right? That is a legal requirement. So workmen's compensation is supposed to cover your employees in the event that they are injured on the job, depending on what the injuries are, that the workmen's compensation would pay, loss of income, or as the case may be, depending on the injury, if it prevents them from being able to work, whatever as the case, that they would be compensated in some way. If it is loss of life, there is that element to compensate the family and so on. We understand that the coverage for each worker for that company, right? The company was being cheap. For that type of work, $250,000 was the coverage per employee for that type of dangerous work. That is how much that company's workmen's compensation policy covered for each worker, $250,000. I am sure that if you were to do a comparative with other companies that offer similar types of services, the amount of coverage per employee based on the extent of risk that job poses would have been higher than that. Because if these men were to apply for life insurance, I could tell you, because of the type of work that they do and the dangers that it presents, they would get what is called an occupational rating. They are at risk, higher risk of death on a daily basis. Every time they dive into that water, there is a possibility of something happening that could cost them their lives. And so they would not pay the same premium as somebody else who working in an office, or somebody else who has a stationary job where they fix in one place, and therefore there is not that risk. Occupational rating, which means they would pay what the average person would pay, and they would be an addition to that, because the underwriters would assess this person is at a higher risk. The reinsurance companies would also assess that these persons are at a higher risk. So $250,000 as coverage under a workmen's compensation plan for persons of that type of job in the first place was unacceptable, completely unacceptable. But where is the condemnation for that? And then we would have read in that article where the policy would have expired on the 30th of December 2021, just under 2 months from when the incident occurred, just under 2 months, right? Policy expired. A renewal notice would have been sent to LMCS well before this policy expired, letting them know that your policy is coming up for renewal and this is the renewal premium. And we don't want coverage for there to be a break in coverage. So the notice is sent well in advance so you could pay up in advance. And they would send you the renewal certificate stating that you are now covered for the period December 31st, 2021 to December 30th, 2022. So if any accidents or incidents take place involving your employees or under the public liability aspect, if anybody comes to your place of business and they are injured, they will be compensated by the insurance company, and that you, the company, don't have to dip into your pockets to compensate. That policy, based on the newspaper article that we read, would have expired on December the 30th of 2021. And despite they would have received the renewal notice well before, that it was not renewed. And it was only after the incident took place, sometime around the 8th of March of 2022, that efforts were made by LMCS to renew the policy. Of course, the incident had already taken place. And since there was a break in coverage, there was no coverage for these men because the policy had expired on December 30th and the premium had not been paid. It was not renewed. They are not entitled to any workman's compensation. Why? Because of negligence on the part of the employer. So now it is my understanding that the insurance company is adamant that they are not paying because the policy was not in force. You did not pay the premium. And the premium would have been negligible, small. If there was probably $4,000 or $5,000 thereabout, it was plenty, right? But it was not paid. The policy lapsed, so they were not covered. They were not insured under workmen's compensation public liability coverage. And given the fact that efforts were made sometime based on the newspaper article, almost 2 weeks after the incident occurred, they probably decided, hey, let me go and see, check there and see the how much they covered for under workmen's compensation. Guys, but wait now, this thing expired since December. And we're now trying to see if we could run and renew it. And you expect the insurance company to pay? No, it doesn't work that way. So while my former friend, is upset, not one red cent was paid by Paria to the families of the divers. How much money did LMCS pay them? But you're not having that conversation. You're not upset with LMCS. Further to that, the inquiry would have shown that the Delta P, which resulted in the loss of life, and these men being sucked into that pipeline, was the fault of LMCS because of negligence on the part of a supervisor who had previously been suspended for insubordination, for disregarding instructions. And that on the day that this unfortunate incident took place, it was because of a decision to take a shortcut that the Delta P took place, resulting in these men being sucked into the pipeline. But these so-called bleeding hearts who support the UNC, and all the rest of you who are uninformed as to the specifics of that incident, right? Like those two clowns on 91.9, Dumb and Dumber, Professor Misinformation and Captain Clueless, who, when it is that the inquiry was completed and the report was submitted and you had the executive summary, they went to the executive summary and said, oh, they blame Paria, but they say LMCS has no liability and no fault. And saying that the executive summary was the report, when the report was over 420-something pages. But these two clowns don't know that. Speaking on things they know nothing about. Come to read or to play the clip with the lead commissioner reading the executive summary. Oh, this is Paria, but LMCS and no fault on the part of LMCS. When in fact, the inquiry also lay blame at the feet of LMCS. And what would have come out of that inquiry was that LMCS was responsible through negligence for removing the plug that caused the Delta P. So had they followed proper procedure and not try a shortcut, try a thing, the Delta P would not have occurred, and those 4 men would not have ended up in that pipeline. And today, they would be with their families, alive and with their families, supporting their families. But these bleeding hearts don't talk about that. It's as if that part of the report don't exist. It doesn't exist. That didn't happen. So it's only Paria, because Paria didn't want to launch a rescue mission. So it's Paria responsible. Paria fault. That's all they focus on, because they understand Paria money. Yeah, so Paria could pay millions of dollars. But let us ignore what caused the incident. Let us ignore what was responsible for those 4 men being pulled into that pipeline. Let us exonerate LMCS for slackness when it was shown that there were other instances prior where there was some level of negligence that would have taken place in other jobs, as the case may be. Where it has been reported, again, that even the equipment, the diving equipment that these men were using was not the correct equipment to use for that type of job. That they were using scuba gear and scuba diving apparatus when that is not the correct apparatus. The same inquiry that would have borne out that one of the experts that they would have brought in, I think he's the only person in the country or so, or something like that. Can't remember the guy's name, who is qualified to do that type of diving, right? Qualified to that extent. And they would have called in this guy to go to assist in the first instance with a rescue mission. And when he was at the rim of the pipe and so on, and he was reluctant to go in because the other guy, can't remember the guy's name, who was, I think was the son of one of the men who was in the pipeline. And the gentleman was saying he had concerns with respect to the emotional state of this guy, right? And because he would have needed to depend on him to assist him in going into the pipeline. And he had concerns. He had concerns about the emotional state of this guy and whether or not he would be able to successfully tether him going into this thing. And he didn't want to end up number 5 in the pipeline. All of these things that were not discussed in detail. But my friend, who says what cemented it for him is when those 40 families did not receive a red cent, but the commission of inquiry cost $18 million. You were among those who were calling for a commission of inquiry. You were among those who were skeptical about the 3-man team. You were among those who were impugning the integrity of these 3 industry professionals even before they were named. So don't come now and complain about commission of inquiry cost 18 million and the family ain't get nothing. That matter is still ongoing. Still ongoing. But you just want the government, let me just get them. Because that's what Pasad says, and that is what would pull at heartstrings. Yeah, she's Kamala's so caring. And she's going to pay, she said she's going to compensate the families of these men. When she comes in office, that's what, yeah, just give away money just so. Without regard for due process. And she's senior counsel, attorney. And you don't want to follow due process. It's just anything goes. Let us govern by VUPs, VAPs, and Vike. Let's give away money, man. Yeah, let's write a check. But all of these bleeding hearts, like my former friend, I want to ask you, shortly after that incident took place, there was a WASA employee who died when he was down in a trench, and the trench caved in on him, and he died. Where are your concerns for his family? Were they compensated? You can't answer that question because you have no interest in that. I wonder why. What about the gentleman who died in the explosion? The Massey employee who died in the explosion at the Nikon plant. Yeah? When he went and they took him, he was badly burnt. And I think he went to Colombia or something like that, and he subsequently died. What of him? Was his family compensated? Do you know? You don't, because you're not interested in inquiring in that, because you are fixated on these 4 divers. And the only reason why you are fixated on these 4 divers is because for the couple days that they were in the pipeline, of course, they were tugging on heartstrings because it was being constantly reported on, and the citizenry would have been drawn into that. But had that been a one-day incident, you all would not have expressed the same level of concern. You would not have. And we see that when it is that these things are drawn out, incidents like these take place and they are drawn out through the media, and then the media comes and they present it in a way that stirs at the emotional side of everybody. So in the case of Andrea Barrett, when she died, remember for days they were looking for her and people were offering prayers and so on and hoping for a safe return. And then when she was eventually found, there was this outcry, and we had the candlelight vigil and so on, because over a period of time, the media was able to draw the society in, the citizenry in, from an emotional standpoint, right? They were able to do that, and that is what happens. But when Ashanti, how come we didn't have the same outpouring of care and love? How come we don't mention her name as much as we do Andrea Barrett? You know why? Because when she was missing, that wasn't just being her. She must be run away with some man. Yeah, some man, she just gone and take man. And she'll come back home. So we're really concerned about her. And then when we found out what happened, that she innocently took a taxi, and this sick, twisted individual, right, not being able to control his urges, went and raped the girl, killed her and dumped her body, right? Sickos. But the same level, we didn't pay the same level of attention and concern and care for her as we did with Andrea Barrett, right? Because when Ashanti's her situation, when she was reported missing, the media wasn't really interested in that. But I just make that point. Right now, we have, what about the families of the gentleman on the rig whose body is yet to be recovered? What about him? You ain't concerned about him? Are you concerned about his family? No. You're concerned about the families of the 4 divers. The wife of one of these men is now a UNC counselor. So she's not suffering. She's earning an income and has been earning an income since she won the election in 2023, August of 2023. So even if she was a housewife before, she's earning an income now. She's sitting on council. I think it's the Kuva Tabaki Talparo Corporation, because she would have won, successfully contested one of the new seats that was instituted in Roystonia. I think they call it Kuva Roystonia or something like that. A narrow win, but a win nevertheless. So don't come tell me they're suffering and they can't pay their bills and stuff, because she's earning an income, right? And so what about the Coast Guardsman, Coast Guard officer, who is still submerged in that narco vessel, right? Who went down with the vessel some 30-something days now, I think it is. What about him? You ain't concerned about him? All of you bleeding hearts who concerned about the divers. What about that Coast Guard officer and his family? Where is your cry for him? None. You don't care about him. You're not concerned. Where is the discussion on the media about that? Yeah, forget about he. They covered it 1-2 days and that's about it. He's still down there, right? Still to be recovered. But we're not talking about that. But you vex with the PNM because of that and have taken to sharing a set of lies and misinformation day after day, constantly, whole time last night, sharing a set of lies. And every time I engage you, you continue to spread your lies. You are a colossal disappointment. I considered you to be a friend and somebody with scruples, but clearly you have none. And you are prepared to have a man who was fired from 2 public utilities companies sit in government as a minister and run a ministry, potentially the very same ministry that would have been the oversight ministry for the public utilities companies that he would have been fired from for gross misconduct and wrongdoing. But you have no problem with him sitting as a government minister. He has shown himself to have the propensity to be dishonest, to engage in corruption, which is one of the main requirements to be a UNC minister or a candidate. You would have condemned that 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and today you want to support it and calling it a distraction. Something very wrong with you. Very, very wrong with you. But that is what you have no problem. But as I said, as I told him, what you call a distraction today, tomorrow will very well show itself to be an ignored red flag. So you go ahead and vote them, put them back in office. And when we get a repeat of 2010 to 2015 on steroids, don't come on social media and complain, because I will be the first person waiting to remind you of your hypocrisy. You don't deserve it. If you all should put God out of your collective thoughts and put these people back in office. You have lost all moral authority to complain when they start to do the very things that you know they would do. Thief, hush your mouth. You voted for that. Shut up. Take it. Don't complain. Don't come and say, well, we had to look for, we need something new, yes, because all these parties is same. Don't come with that stupid talk. Don't come with that dotish talk. Because you have an alternative. You don't want the PNM, you've got to vote for Michaela Pandey. Vote for her party. But you rather vote, you want to put because the UNC has the best chance. So let me support them. And let me put out a whole set of rubbish and nastiness and totally ignore what they did. And I'm not just talking about stories that would have come up between 2010 to 2015. Subsequent to that, we have more recent articles showing us things that were only uncovered after. 5 years later, 2020, we learned about Paria and his mother forming a company from 2011. Right? Up to 2010, you're the official post tutor. Your job is to walk around with Kamla and carry her handbag and her scarf and so on. Give yourself some fancy title. But then again, and I will revisit all of these articles to remind some of you, and especially the newer ones, because what I've realized, plenty of the supporters don't know about these things, or maybe their memory short. Because when I see them post things and criticizing the PNM and advocating for the UNC, and then I go to the comments and I reply to them and I ask them, are you okay with this person, with that person serving? All of a sudden they gone quiet. This so-called big shot attorney, Kyle Taklal Singh, who just a few months ago was on Paria's team. He was considered to be a dissident. He was one of them that was supporting Paria, right? And was calling for new leadership of the UNC. He was one of them who was declared an Imakaram. Yes, back then, just a few months ago, he was on that side speaking on platforms. In fact, he contested, if memory serves me correctly, he would have contested a position in the internal election to rival Prasad Bisessa's slate, because he felt that that slate and what they offered was not what the UNC needed. But as Jenny keeps telling us, that when comes crunch time, in spite of the fact that they disagree and they know what is right, they will coalesce and come together for the sake of the treasury. So I saw he posted up a couple days ago now. Yeah, he back in the fold, because the fight really is not with the UNC, the fight is against the PNM. So again, I who extol the virtues, of good governance and morals and principles in politics, I would have stood on a platform and condemned the man who is alleged to have been engaged in human trafficking and prostitution. I would have condemned those persons against whom accusations have been made about fraud and misbehavior in public office and so on, and condemn that. I am now willing to stand with these very same people, shoulder to shoulder with these same people, and forsake all that I spoke about on the platform a few months ago, condemning them. I am now willing to embrace them, shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm, as we work against the PNM. Were they exonerated? Did they go before a court of law and these charges against them, these allegations against them were proven to be false, and you could now say I could stand with them? Did they clear their names to come back home? No, they haven't. In some cases, some of them have even more questions to answer. But the very people that you condemned a few months ago, you are now prepared to join them arm in arm. So what does that say about your morals and principles, sir? You have none. You too have capitulated at the counter of expediency for the sake of getting into office. And we will see what will happen after that. We already know. And it's just like I told my colleagues in 2010 who were telling me, get them a chance, it's something new. And if it didn't work out, we could always go back to the PNM. Well, leopard don't change its spots. They corrupt to the hilt. They were corrupt between 95 to 2001. You expected it to be different between 2010 to 2015. I didn't need a crystal ball to see that their ways didn't change. And they came in 2010 to 2015 and did the very things that I knew they would do and more. That is why they were voted out. That is why after just 3 years in office, 3 years, they lost the local government election after having won 11 seats in 2010, riding on the wave of popularity and Manning must go, and Manning must go, and called a hat. They won 11 corporations, and 3 years later, they were reduced to 5. Why? Because the population saw their thieving, corrupt ways. Just a few months after they came into office, we had Makandal Daga telling us, he who was a part of that unholy alliance, that den of iniquity, went on national television and made the claim, in all of my 50, 60 years, I have never seen that level of corruption, that level of thieving. People are stealing money like they invented it, like they have a right to thief. Makandal Daga said that months into their government, not years. They couldn't wait to thief. You fired over 5,000 people, right? Because what? For whatever reason, who you declared to be PNM or what, we have money to pay that or whatever. But you could thief. $2 million for Soca Monarch, $2 million for Calypso Monarch, $2 million first prize for Panorama. Everybody is a free-for-all money gain way. Millions of dollars in prizes. Before many people's band. Just make your costume and come. The government will pay for everything else. Yeah, it's a free-for-all. Your community have money, man, and leave the treasury empty. But mere months later, you could have found millions of dollars to give out these prizes. Populist strategies to try and buy the people, buy support. But it didn't work. And 3 years later, the population handed you your first significant defeat. Tobago, they had the 2 seats. Vanilla Allen Toppin and Delmon Baker, Mr. Nippler. Mr. Nipples Pincher, right? And Vanilla Allen Toppin, who took the state credit card and went on a spending spree, was, despite the fact you're earning a salary as an MP and as a minister, but that wasn't enough for you. You went and used the state credit card that was given to you for certain expenses when it is that you're engaging in state duties, or you're traveling or whatever, and going to the ATM and withdrawing money from the ATM. So your salary wasn't enough. You're getting paid 2 salaries as an MP and as a minister. And that wasn't enough for you, that you have to be using the credit card to go and stick in a machine and withdraw cash. What utter rubbish is that? And say you didn't know? How could you not know? How could you not know? But they want to kill Camille Robinson Regis, talking about what she used the credit card to buy wig and all kind of thing. Then they forget about shopping, topping. Who did that? All the salaries. So what was she doing? Who paying for that? Using the state credit card to withdraw money to pay stuff and to buy personal stuff when that was not the intention of the card. Where is the condemnation for that? The same hypocrites and the fully done side who want to come and talk about Camille Robinson Regis, so they forget Vanilla, shopping, topping, you all forget about her. We have nothing to say about that. So my friend who has issues, who is willing to tell me about distractions, there's no time for distraction. So you call corruption $2.2 million US solicited as a bribe by the Mercy Committee, because they are the ones who would have had to make the recommendation. And we will read that, we'll interrogate that article again too, for those of you who don't know and who forget. That these people holding high office solicited $2.2 million US in bribes from a man who was on a life sentence for drug trafficking so that he could get a presidential pardon. And when we read all of the intrigue that they engaged in, when we thought that the 50 pardons that they had proposed for our 50th anniversary as an independent nation, that was something novel. Yes, 50 prisoners who, have shown themselves to be good prisoners. They ain't given no problems. 50 persons, 50 names, to only realize that was a scheme intended to give this individual a pardon. And when that didn't work, when that fell by the wayside, we come up with all kind of things, Section 34 and whatnot, and eventually they went the way of the presidential pardon. Solicit bribe, $2.2 million US from a drug lord. A drug lord, right? Dirty money, because that money that he paid could have only come from drugs. But they want to come and talk now about Adrian Leonce and all kind of thing and all kind of bacchanal. Right? That is an ongoing story. And the PNM has always been of the position. And the former prime minister made it clear when he came in. Well, you find yourself in any wrong, stand up, you're on your own. Don't look for me to come to your salvation. Right? So so they're making an issue of this, and we will see what the outcome of that will be. Mr. Leonce has given an explanation, right? It's for the police to do their investigation to determine whether or not his explanation is valid or not. And if it turns out not to be valid, well, then do what it is that you need to do. It was the same position I was taking with Marlene McDonald. That is why Dr. Rory removed her. And when it came time for election in 2020, Marlene could not come before the screening committee because she had matters before the court. So no, every single party group, no. You cannot nominate Marlene to come before the screening committee. She would not. Dr. Rowley would ask, all you mad? All you mad? Marlene has her legal issues to deal with. Let her deal with that. Kamla? David Lee is before the court. $1 million bail for fraud, misbehavior in public office, conspiracy, and the like. But he will come before the screening committee, and quite likely, he would be selected as a candidate. Quite likely. And all that is part of the reason why certain names have not yet been released. Right? So you figure 1 week will make a difference in terms of the PNM being able to exploit that. So you figure what? If you drag it out to the end and you go down to the 4th of April on nomination day, we will then learn if David Lee, who is on $1 million bail for fraud, if he will be your candidate for Claxton Bay, I think is the new name for the seat. We will learn if Arnold Ram, who was fired from 2 public utilities companies, if he will be your candidate for Karani Central. We will learn if Ravi Ratiram, who is subject to police investigation for human trafficking and prostitution and perhaps wrongdoing, misbehavior in public office while he served on state boards during 2010 to 2015, if he will be your chosen candidate for Couva North. So you figure, well, right, we drag it out now, because if we announce these candidates too early, the PNM will beat us with that. They will highlight that to the population. Hey, these men have questions to answer. So you figure 3 weeks to the election. We could take that chance. Yes, they will put some licks on us with respect to that, but hopefully 3 weeks is not sufficient for it to resonate sufficiently with the population. So let me drag it out to the end. So I limit the amount of time that the PNM would be able to pick up momentum in terms of highlighting to the population why these men do not deserve to sit in our parliament, far less to be in government. But I have been prosecuting that case Prasad Bisasa for the longest while. Not now, and I don't need to wait until the 4th. So I put in your notice all now, and I've been doing that all the time. These men are unfit and do not qualify. They are an embarrassment. And as a citizen of this country, I am saying I cannot fathom the idea of having a man who is on $1 million bail for fraud, who has shown himself to have the propensity to be corrupt. I cannot support somebody like that sitting in government, running a ministry, right? And furthermore, leaving this country to go and represent Trinidad and Tobago on the international stage. And you have charges before the court. These matters take too long to be dispensed. David Lee should have been behind bars a long time. Why is the judiciary taking so long to deal with this matter? This is a simple white-collar matter. When was the last time David Lee made an appearance before the court? What is the status of that matter? Why is it taking so long? We have had people in the United States commit crimes after that, have been found, tried, and committed. And yet still, that matter, more than 2 years now. What really going on with that? What is going on with that? We have 66 new courtrooms, and we will also be going through the achievements of the PNM. Rest assured, that's why I say I will have to do this more than 3 times a week, because there's a lot to cover, and I need you all to share the live. Right? Going forward, we need to share the live because more people need to know. Because apparently some people in this country, I don't know, like the sense going out the door. This is a woman who has shown herself to be an upholder of wrongdoing. Let me give you all an example of the type of individual that she is. Well, we love you and she's so care, and no other leader will love you as I love you. My heart is pure and my hands are clean. So why Paria give you $135,000? They give you a cock and bull story. Yeah, since you are an expert in cock and bull stories, because that is how she described Mr. Ember's explanation of the understatement of the 2.6 billion. But let me talk cock and bull story. Paria give you made 2 deposits to your account for $135,000. He, who is half her age, can't remember why he gave her that money. Not willing to proffer an explanation when approached by Mark Basant. And my question is it that you gave her other amounts of money and you didn't want to get these stories mixed up now? So that when the police come and knock in, well, we come to find out about this, and this, you can't say, well, they could tell you, well, the explanation I gave to Mark Basant was that this money was for this. But now you're giving us a different story, so he needed to go home and go through the records to make sure he get his story straight. Right? He can't remember. He is twice her age. So if this is the only instance that you would have deposited money to the account of the then Prime Minister, shouldn't be difficult for you to remember why. If it was a one-time incident and it was legitimate, I can't remember why, but I know that whatever it was, it would have been above board. Really? I know who I lend money to, and I could tell you, and it's not no $135,000. If I put money into somebody's account, $135,000, and it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, bet your bottom dollar I would remember why I would have given you that large sum of money. But he can't remember. But she come to give us a cock and bull story about she went abroad on some official trip, and the official credit card for the Prime Minister was given some problems. And so she used her personal credit card to pay these expenses, and she was reimbursed. So that $235,000 was reimbursement. 2 checks was reimbursement for that trip. And as I say, when I go abroad, if I have challenges with my credit card, there's a hotline. I call the bank and I let them know I'm trying to, or they have a facility, the same bank facility where you could send a private message on online banking and they would respond to you, let them know whatever is the issue and so on. So you call, right, I swipe my card and it's coming up declined, or for some reason it's giving some problems, right? Could you look into it for me? All right, they'll tell you, okay, so. They call you back or they send you an email letting you know this is the situation to resolve the problem. So, and this is for an ordinary pleb like me. So if the prime minister of the country is on an official trip and the state credit card assigned to the prime minister that is to be used to fund these expenses is giving problems, is the prime minister, she don't need to call the bank. All she needs to do is to pick up the phone and call the Minister of Finance who had been the previous head of the Bank of FCD and tell him, Larry, the credit card is giving some problems, right? And we need this sorted out so that we can pay these things. Now, you are the Prime Minister of the country, so I think the hotel and whoever would be willing, would give you a blind. You are a Prime Minister, you're a dignitary, a diplomat. You're not an ordinary person, so they know you could sort out your sort outs. Call Hawaii and let him know. Hawaii pick up the phone and he call whoever is in charge of that department. Listen, here's your boss on the line here, the Minister of Finance, right? The line Minister of Corporation, so the Prime Minister's credit card is giving some problems. You need to deal with that right away. Right away. Can't be causing the Prime Minister embarrassment. And 2 that would have been fixed. So when you come to give us cock and bull story about your card wasn't working and you had to use your personal card to pay for the things and then reimbursement, you're on folly. And if that is the case, why were the checks given to issue to Paria for him to cash the money and give it to you? Is that how it's done? Why weren't the checks made directly to Kamla Prasad Bisesa? You present your statement, you present your invoices or so on, your bills, and therefore the check is to be made to you. Why would the accounting officer issue the check to Barry Paria for Paria to go and cash the check and then give you the $135,000? Why? Why was there a need for a middleman? And that's the cock and bull story that she sells to the media and they take that and run with it. Makes no sense to me. Making sense to you? That's the cock and bull story that she gave. But they're talking about Camille Robinson Regis. Why the police not looking into that? Well, we know that as part of the investigation. But we will interrogate that article on another day. In depth. We'll go over it again. So I was making the point. So not Monday gone, the Monday before, when they had the meeting in Brazil to launch to introduce the candidate for La Hoqueta Talparo, Mr. Philip Watts, a PNM turncoat, right? Miss Lady don't know what it is to arrive on time, with a specific time, because she always had to reach late and make an appearance, an entrance. For the meeting going on, and when she show up, is that she had to take a year and a day to walk through the crowd, because she ain't able. You saw photos of last Monday's meeting and she catching her tail to come out of the car. You need about 3 people to help her out. Right? She continues to degenerate, but they're still propping her up. As Philip Alexander said, she passed her expiry date long time. Elder abuse. It ain't nobody. We gonna play all them things too. Yeah? But she must always make an entrance when she goes to a meeting. So last week, Monday, heading up to Brazil, coming up on the highway, speeding, right? Escort. She have an escort vehicle, so, because as leader of the opposition, thank goodness Dr. Rowley had lobbied for that when he was opposition leader. So coming up the highway, you're running late for whatever reason, because it probably take a little extra long to fix your face, because the wrinkles are a little more difficult now to hide. So you need extra foundation and whatever else you use, because she's still trying to look young. As she put up a poster advertising the launch Monday gone. And they use a picture from 2010 because they realize the current photos, that can't work, right? But running late and speeding up, coming up the highway. The lead vehicle, of course, broke the light by Mausika there. And I understand she mentioned it. I didn't look at the meeting, but she mentioned it. She was in a little accident. So the lead vehicle broke the light because they're supposed to come to whoever stop the traffic and whatnot. So they passed through. The light on red. So they gone through. And they indicated to the vehicle that she was in that is okay to come through, from what I was told. And a good friend of mine who lives in the area is heading home to his family, right? His wife and newborn. And heading home, the Prado that she in run into the man vehicle, right? His Navara, send it spinning. And he said, he confused because he in the right. So he heading, And out of nowhere, this vehicle comes and hits him, sends his vehicle spinning, and well, fortunately, he was able to compose himself and mash the brakes to bring the vehicle to a stop before, the whole front of the van mash up. So he come out of the vehicle now, so what is going on there? And the woman, the female officer who's always with her human crutch, tell him, well, we got instructions from the lead vehicle that it was okay to proceed. Right? She didn't have the courtesy to tell the guy, well, apologies or whatever it is, as the case may be. You hit the man van, he could have taken his life. The van could have flipped. He could have lost his life on that night, and his newborn son would have grown up without a father. But she just come on the platform, and while she was in an accident, to explain why she was a little late. But where was your commiserations with this gentleman whose vehicle you just hit and whose life you almost took? Where was it? I wonder if maybe she's suffering from whiplash, or probably that contributed to why, she a little more shaky. Well, he hit the man van, and of course, the stress, so he had to go to his company to deal with whatever, and he has to go through the headache now to deal with the TTPS. When a police vehicle hits you, how long are you going to take for that matter to settle, right? But that is the recklessness of this woman. Leave home on time. The meeting starts in a particular time, but you always have to make an entrance. And in your bid to make an entrance, breaking traffic light, breaking the law, endangering people's lives. Today, that man could have been in a 6-foot hole because of your recklessness and your irresponsibility. But you want to be prime minister, but you love and you're so love, miss me with that bullspit, but you love. You could fool the fully duns. You could fool the waterfront ilk with that. But when it is that you could call your own people ni makaram and mahani makaram, and if you say you want to put country before party, then go to hell. Go to hell, and you love, you could keep that love. How Gregory put up with that for all these years, heaven only knows. So I see where it is said that in their desperate bid for candidates, it appears that they have snagged, well, what appears to be former senior superintendent of police Roger Alexander, because there are reports stating that he would have resigned from the TTPS and that he is tipped to be their candidate for Tunapuna in their desperation, right? And Dr. Rowley would have told you all at the candidate launch and the presentation of candidates in Woodford Square a couple Sundays ago. He told you the reason why they are not naming their candidates or cannot is because the hog trading is still taking place. All of the backroom negotiations and deals taking place, where they're trying to get people who have some level of integrity or some level of, in this case, notoriety to come on board to make the team look strong, right? So there's all kind of offers being made. Listen, we feel that if you come, people know you could give the party a little lift, the lift that we desperately need. Now, a man ain't going to leave years of tenure to come and run for a position that he knows he possibly will not win. Because when you lose, how you're feeding yourself, how you're paying your bills. So obviously, you don't just do that. Who gives up years of tenure and whatever benefits that you would have derived from that? That you hold on, you're facing a possible reduction in pension because of the number of years that you would have served. The position, the higher up the ladder that you go, is the higher your salary, and of course the higher the pension that you would receive. Who gives that up just to run for a seat that the likelihood is you will not win? There must be something at the back end. So if I don't win, what am I supposed to do? How do I pay my bills? So questions obviously would be asked. What was the inducement? If he does not win, how does he pay his bills? If he does not win, how does he earn an income? Right? And if they don't win, to give him something to put him somewhere else in some other position, if he loses, then obviously he needs money. So people are rightly asking the questions, how much were you paid? What is the deal for after when you lose? What is the deal? What are you going to get? And these are the people who are offering themselves. In the 2010 to 2015, they had to pay Mr. Hawaii $11.625 million to leave his cushy job in First Citizens Bank to become minister. You, Mr. Taxpayer, pay that. Dr. Rowley didn't have to offer that inducement to anybody to leave the job to become a minister. So the questions are being asked. What were the inducements offered to Mr. Alexander to leave, to give up tenure in the police service, right? To break your service, to impact your pension and the amount that you would get, to impact or to give up the possibility of moving up the professional ladder in the police service, to run for something that you would not win. We will see how that pans out. Confirmation is yet to come from the party, so we will see. For now, it's an allegation. It seems that his resignation is confirmed, but because as a police officer, you can't engage in politics. And we saw it when Gary Griffith was Commissioner of Police with Dwayne O'Connor, when he was suspended for offering himself to for screening by the PNM to run for a local government seat. Right? So we wait to see how that plays out, but that is a valid question that is being asked. What were the inducements? What were you offered? How much are they paying you to do this? And if you're not successful, what is your compensation? Because your reputation dead. Your reputation is dead, right? UNC, when it is that a sitting MP, well, he's not an MP anymore because Parliament is dissolved, but a former MP said no one of integrity wants to support or have themselves associated with the UNC. And we know Mr. Alexander has a very colorful past in terms of run-ins with the law, right? Very colorful past. So there are those who say that he meets the criteria to be a UNC candidate. On a more positive front, the Prime Minister, Stuart Young, is in Jamaica. Yesterday, he would have met with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, where they held a bilateral meeting, right, between his team and Marco Rubio's team. It is important to note, right, now that it is in the public domain, that request for a bilateral meeting was made by the United States. Right? It wasn't Stuart Young requesting. The United States requested a separate meeting specifically with the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Right? We couldn't say that before, but it had been told to us prior. The Prime Minister would have revealed that to a small group. And so, now that it has happened, that request was made. So it means that Trinidad and Tobago's energy security is, in fact, on the radar of the United States of America, right? And that meeting was specifically requested, and it happened yesterday. And so Mr. Rubio would have met with Prime Minister Young yesterday, right? And they would have had that meeting, which would have included discussions, as Mr. Young would have indicated prior, that he intended to go there and make a case for the dragon gas and so on. But Minister Young is to be congratulated, and he is to be complimented, because he has been demonstrating the true attributes and characteristics of a prime minister, one who fights for their country in the face of all difficulties. So that even with reports coming out of the United States about certain decisions taken by that new administration in respect to their posture towards Venezuela, and decisions being taken that is inimical to Trinidad and Tobago's well-being, particularly as it pertains to our energy sector, while the UNC, based on those reports, have written off Dragon completely, totally. Minister Young, who has a vested interest and who would have played a pivotal role in the negotiations that led to Trinidad and Tobago receiving that OFAC license from the previous United States administration, which had a more relaxed posture towards Venezuela, which understood the significance of those gas fields to Trinidad and Tobago's economic well-being and our energy security, not just ours, but for the Caribbean region. And they were willing to work to compromise based on Mr. Young's shuttle work as described by Dr. Rowley between Port of Spain, Washington, and Caracas, right? And that is why he maintained, notwithstanding the fact that he's prime minister, he would have maintained responsibility for the Ministry of Energy. As he says, what is critical in that ministry is a number of relationships that he would have established. He would have told us some time ago he's on a first-name basis with the global head of BP, the global head of Woodside, and Shell and all of these companies, where they call him to ask him, would he be attending this, would he be attending that, because they want to have discussions with him. So the heads of these energy companies have profound respect for then Minister of Energy Stuart Young, who is now Prime Minister and is in a much better place in terms of making direct decisions. Even though he would have had that authority given to him by Dr. Rowley to do what is required to make these gas deals a reality, he has more authority now. Kamla Persad-Bissessar does not have those relationships. Understand that. Does not have. The global head of BP would have indicated in an article some time ago that a lot that they have been able to achieve in the energy sector, in particular as it pertains to Venezuelan gas, and to perhaps some extent oil as well, because BP has been engaging in negotiations with Venezuela, separate and apart from Trinidad, right? From activities that they have in Trinidad, things that they wanted to do. And basically they were knocking against a brick wall. But because of the relationship that Stuart Young would have developed with the authorities in Venezuela, he was able to assist BP in advancing those negotiations, with some of which has nothing to do with Trinidad and Tobago, all right? But the head of BP, the global head of BP, forgive me, his name slips me at the moment, would have indicated that had it not been for Trinidad and Tobago and their diplomatic leverage, that BP would not have been able to achieve a lot that they have been able to. I am pretty sure that the head of BP Global is not on a first-name basis with Kamla Persad-Bissessar and is not interested. Now understand something. Stuart Young continues to fight. He has not given up on Dragon. He has not given up on Coquina Mannequin. He has not given up on Manatee. Well, Manatee is in a different field, no pun intended, because that is our natural gas and we can extract that, right? But the delinking, which was very important, as he would have indicated just a few days ago, that is not an international practice. Normally, where you have cross-border gas fields, it is usually developed jointly. It is very rare, if at all, the other party would give up the opportunity or the right to participate in something like that, as Venezuela would have agreed to delink, to allow us to develop our side of the field. Now, as I said, it's a big gas field. There is no way to differentiate. So when you draw in gas, it's not like the gas hisses in Spanish. So you know, well, hey, there's a Spanish hiss, there's Venezuelan gas. Put that back. We're only looking for Trinidad, that the English speaking gas or the English hissing gas. So just listen for the Trini twang. If you hear any hola, ¿qué tal, cómo te llamas? That is Venezuelan gas. So push that back. See, we can't take that, right? So that is the risk that occurs, and therefore, but Venezuela, because of the good relationship and the good relations, because you see, while they want to talk about Persad-Bissessar accusing this guy of being a narco trafficker and all kind of thing, remember when this administration first came in, Venezuela was starting to go through some teething problems, some issues with respect to the availability of certain goods on their shelves, and it was Trinidad and Tobago that was able to come to the rescue. When I remember first the reports was they didn't have toilet paper and all kind of thing, and Dr. Rowley was able to negotiate that arrangement for the $50 million revolving contract, where he would have arranged for the manufacturing sector of Trinidad and Tobago to provide Venezuela with $50 million worth of goods on a monthly basis, and our manufacturing sector, unfortunately, could only supply 27 million, and they were roundly admonished by the then head of the TTMA, Mr. Rolf Balgobin, who at a TTMA event lamented the fact that the very people who are complaining, we can't get US, here is an opportunity presenting itself for you to get 50 million US per month, and you were not able to rise to the challenge. That the government of Trinidad and Tobago, led by Keith Rowley, was able to negotiate this opportunity for you, and you were not able to rise to the challenge. And in large measure, a lot of what Venezuela needed, we did not have here. And that would have created an opportunity now for these manufacturers to diversify their product line to try and meet the needs and the demands, because they realize where their shortcomings were, that certain things that are needed we can't provide, and there is opportunity for us to invest in that. And perhaps that would have contributed to where we are today, where the manufacturing sector is performing much better than it was between 2010 to 2015. In fact, the manufacturing sector has been contributing significantly to the country's coffers and the country's GDP. And that development would have taken place over the last 9.5 going into 10 years as a result of the management of the economy by this administration, certain incentives that would have been offered and the like, and the manufacturing sector understanding that the diversification conversation is not a government conversation. It is something that they could play a lead role in that. And it's up to them now to look for opportunities outside where they exist for them to be able to export their goods, to increase production. We know between 2010 to 2015, while such efforts were being made to do that, one of the biggest challenges that the manufacturing sector faced between 2010 to 2015, as articulated by Jeremy Matuk at a stakeholder meeting that they had, was that while the factories have the capacity to run 3 shifts, 2 to 10, 10 to 6, and 6 to 2, that they were having challenges getting workers, in particular for the graveyard shift of 10 in the night to 6 in the morning. And even the other 2 staff, the other 2 shifts, they were working with a skeletal staff because persons were leaving to go and work for CPEP. Because remember, under the People's Partnership, CPEP went from 5,000 workers in 2010 when they came in to over 15,000 when they left. So when they boasted, they created 55,000 jobs. At least 10,000 of those jobs was CPEP workers, right? And the manufacturing sector was complaining about that. People are leaving the factories where it is that they're earning higher wages, where it is that they have other benefits like health insurance and paid vacation leave and all of these different things. And they are going to work CPEP for a few hours. And they couldn't understand it. That was impacting on the availability of labor. And in most instances, a lot of these manufacturing companies were running 2 shifts instead of 3. And the 2 shifts that they were running, you had workers who were doing double shift because they didn't have workers, right? So that was the challenge that was being faced. So I'm making the point that while they say the economy is the worst it has ever been, and that is the mantra going forward, nothing could be further from the truth. When we see the banks recording, record profits, and we see the manufacturing sector and the conglomerates record profits in an economy that is suffering, they are recording profits much higher than they would have recorded between 2010 to 2015 when the economy supposedly was the best it's ever been. Something wrong there. That maths ain't mathsing. That logic, not logicking, right? But Stuart Young is out there. He has not capitulated like the UNC, but they don't have a choice but to capitulate. Because even if somehow Mr. Young is able to negotiate with the United States to allow us to proceed with the Dragon Gas project and the other projects, if they can't come to some sort of arrangement, the fact of the matter is that if he's able to secure that, should you put God out of your collective thoughts to put Kamla Persad-Bissessar and the UNC in office come April 28th, any gains or any concessions that Mr. Young is able to extract from the United States based on this bilateral meeting and any further meetings that may take place, there is the issue of the relationship between Kamla Persad-Bissessar and Nicolas Maduro. Understand that, right? That constant haranguing of the man and his administration, calling him a narco trafficker, accusing him of being part of a corrupt cook-up with Rowley and Jindal and all of this nonsense. He wants nothing to do with her, right? He is not prepared to deal with Kamla Persad-Bissessar and the UNC, and they cannot engage with him. Understand the significance of these gas deals, Trinidad and Tobago. Do not play with your economic future for a few moments of emotion. You're vexed with the government because you get a ticket. You can't get tickets if you don't break the law. You're vexed with the government because you have demerit points on your license, because you got a ticket because you broke the law. The law is there for a reason. If you didn't break the law, you wouldn't have gotten the ticket, right? It is not that difficult to understand. So please take into consideration this fact. So listen, when you hear Persad-Bissessar coming and making all these promises, which we will also interrogate, all of these promises that she made on Monday night, put me back and I will give you this. Put me back and we will give you that. But where is the money coming from to do it? Because while Stuart Young continues to fight to hold on to these deals, because remember this issue straddled 3 administrations. The Manning administration wasn't able to do it. The Persad-Bissessar administration couldn't do it. But it took the Keith Rowley administration to do it, to bring us to where we are. But if Prasad Bisesa as Minister of Energy had put in the level of work and commitment that Stuart Young put in over the last 4 years, Dragon gas would have been flowing perhaps over the last 7 to 8 years, and we wouldn't have been having an issue now with foreign exchange. We wouldn't have concerns with respect to the availability of gas. And the downstream plants that have been mothballed because of the shortage of gas, those plants would have been running today and employment would have been generated if it is Kevin Ramnarine had put in the same kind of commitment, dedication towards what fast forwarding or facilitating this deal that Stuart Young has done. That he went into that ministry and he put his all into it, and he has shown you by his performance in that ministry, the performance you will get if he is Prime Minister. He is committed to getting it done. That is why he wants to create a ministry of implementation and efficiency, because he is fed up of the bureaucracy and all who talking nonsense. But he was in the government before and 10 years, and why he didn't do it before, he wasn't the Prime Minister. And you need to understand the chain of authority and respect. Now he is the Prime Minister and he now has the freedom to run the government as he sees fit. But the fact of the matter is, you do not come and mash the toes of the person who was in charge. If Dr. Rowley felt that this is the way he wanted his cabinet to operate and function, Stuart Young respected the lines of authority. Now he is at the top, and he could make the changes that he wants. He could bring in the team that he wants to, that he feels can do the job, and take up from where Dr. Rowley would have left off. So all this dotage talk, but he was there before, and how come he didn't do that before? And now he is now the Prime Minister. He was not the Prime Minister before. You understand? There is a fundamental difference. And therefore, when you have a cabinet, while there may be certain ideological differences of opinion and the like, but at the end of the day, the PNM respects the command, the chain of authority. When you are in the position, you could run things how you see fit. And that is why Stuart Young, Dr. Rowley would have had him in the office of the Prime Minister, training under him for the longest while. So now he understands the job, and he is prepared to bring the same level of commitment, dedication that he did. Kamala Persad-Bissessar had shown herself to be a lazy Prime Minister. She thought that the function of Prime Minister is to cut ribbon and turn sword and commission buildings and pull back plaque. That is what she thought the job of the Prime Minister was. That is why when Dr. Rowley came in and he had to tell us piles of files on his desk with things to be signed, some of which needed to be signed, 2 years and signed. Where was she? 5-day weekends. That he had to come in and clear the desk and to sign off on things that he knew nothing about. She is a lazy individual. Other than mounting platforms and pretending to have stamina and all kind of platitudes and big talk and promises. No substance, only fluff. And she's not as well. If back then she did nurse and all of that, and now you could see her physical decline and in some cases mental decline, understand, she is not prepared. She is just not prepared, my dear friends. No longer prepared. And she will simply be a puppet for those in the back who feel that they could control her as her decline continues. She's not aging in reverse. She's going to be 73, I think, next month. And all who talking nonsense about, yes, she a belated birthday gift and make her Prime Minister, rock so with that nonsense. She has not articulated them what they're going to do to generate foreign exchange, what they're going to do to generate income and revenue to fulfill all of these promises that they make it. Just remember in 2010, she promised you $3,000 pension. Life begins at 60. You will get $3,000 pension, old age pension at 60. No questions asked, no means test. Regardless, so you could be rich, poor, or indifferent, come and get your $3,000 just like giving out laptop. We don't care if it is you're living in Goodwood Park, Federation Park, Ellerslie Park, Westmoreland, and home you have desktop, laptop, iPad, iMac. Forget that. She don't care. Come and take a laptop. We just giving things free for all. Made you that promise. You get it? All you who gave your vote on credit, did you get that $3,000 pension? You're still waiting for it. She tell you it was a misprint. But night after night, they parroting that. So they misspoke too. It was a misprint, but it wasn't a misspoke. promised you fixed dates for election, term limits for prime minister, recall legislation. She promised the people of Labre that the jobs and all the opportunities they lost as a result of the decision to cancel the smelter, that would be replaced by a shipbuilding, ship repair facility that would be constructed on the site where the smelter plant was supposed to be built. 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days later, she hit Olia Maggie. Where is this shipbuilding facility? Did she build it? No. Same way she promised the youth when she cancelled and the life sport program because of all of the wanton corruption that she read out in the parliament. She promised you, don't worry, we know some of you are concerned and you depend on the program, we'd bring something else in place. Did she do that? No. Because as far as she's concerned, a little black boy waste her time. We were fool all here, but nothing for all here. But we will go through all the other things. There was one more thing that I wanted to touch on because he's already 8:15. Let me just remind you all. Let me just get this here. Put on this thing. All right, just give me 1 second here, folks. Let me just get this. Gosh, come on, man, thing. Right. Where is it? Where is it? I'll just play this here.
The commitment to restart the point of view refinery with the involvement of the union. Let me say that again. Let me say that again. Let me say that again. The commitment to restart the point of view refinery with the involvement of the union. And of course,
here this part.
While we can't talk about any percentage of wage would settle, there is a commitment to revisit the unjust and unfair 4% over 6 years and about 5%.
Let me just play back that last part there.
And of course, while we can't talk about any percentage of wage would settle, there is a commitment.
While we cannot talk about any percentage or wage that would settle, right? So we went from 24% and nothing less. 10% can't do it, 20% can't do it, 21, 22, 23% can't do it. But we could start negotiations on 24%. Ansel Roger said that. But no, they went down Kamala and said, well, put us in office and we will give you 10%. We've gone from 24 and up. Anything below that can work. So I will offer you 10%. And then now we reach, well, of course, while we cannot speak on any percentage or wage increase. So 10 not even on the table anymore. 10 not even on the table. Right? So you're up in arms. So when they come in there and you take chain up, and then you come in and they say, well, we realize we can't pay more than 4. At best, we could probably add 2 and give you 6. Don't complain. Don't complain. You heard the man say it. While we cannot talk about or specify percentage or which wage would settle. All right? So if you're hoping that she will give you 10 and 14% again, you go ahead and pitch your wagon, hit your wagon to that. But you heard the head of the OWTO tell you, we can't discuss that. So you sat down with Kamala all this time, all you had discussion, and she didn't give you a commitment. You, Roger, the last time when you sat down around a table with Kamala, you remember what the outcome was? At that time, you were willing, you were contemplating to make a bid for the refinery. You had your proposal, and you went everywhere, you're carrying copies everywhere, and Kamala said, come and sit down with me and my team, let's discuss. And she tell you, I like this or no, but you need to do more. Instead of just bidding for the refinery, bid for the whole hog. Remember that, Roger? She told you, go big or go home. Don't just bid for the refinery, bid for the whole company, even though the whole company wasn't up for sale. The non-core assets were not on sale, but he take that chain up and went and bid for the whole refinery. The government said we review the proposal, but listen, the non-core assets are not for sale. All right, we just offering the refinery, so that is all we willing to entertain. That's the only part of your proposal we willing to entertain. And when the government took the decision to give it to them, to give them the first opportunity to own the refinery, the same woman who encouraged him to go out to bid for the whole hog, the whole company, not just the refinery, she all of a sudden, where they get money for that? How patriotic how the government could do that? Where are union going and get all that money to purchase a refinery? But you tell them to bid for the whole company. So you wasn't concerned. You didn't ask Osho where the money coming from when you all were sitting around the table, Pasad Bisesa. Where you thought he would get the money from to buy the whole company. So you're doubting he had the money to buy the refinery, but you tell him to bid for the refinery and everything else, which would have cost more money. And Roger take that chain up. She tried to sabotage you because she figured if you bid for the whole company, the government would have rejected your proposal. And then you would have joined with her against the government. But it backfired. And they weren't expecting the government to do what they did, which was to give you first dibs. And then the government tried to work with you. They say, here, what you offer $700 million US in cash. We don't want you to be straddled with a debt if you take over the refinery and you're struggling. And we're talking about security of energy and fuel security. So here what? We will give you a moratorium. Okay? We will give you 10 years to pay and a 3-year moratorium to start. So for the first 3 years, run the refinery. You don't have to give away no money. Take that money that you're earning and treat with the teething issues, get the things up and running, and then after that, you could start to pay us. That is the deal that the government gave to them, made it easy. 3 years, the refinery is yours, run it. You don't have to pay nothing. And then after that, you will start to pay. And Pasad Bisesa come and 10 questions. She want to know where the money coming from and all of that. And Roger put some licks on her because he realized that she played him for a fool. Today he on a platform with her again, right? Prepared to once again be played for a fool, played like a fiddle. What, you stupid man, you desperate man. But some people need to burn to learn, right? So look forward, Ole put her in office and look forward to within the space of 6 months to a year, more dragging of effigies, another statue. First Easter, after that, he beaten Kamla, the Kamla Boboli. Right. Stupid. Anyway, let me take this call here. Mr. Yates, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
I would just like to say 2 things and very quickly.
Yes.
1, my mind takes me back a few years ago to a particular incident which took place in Santa Cruz, where a particular senior officer who was very prominent on an afternoon TV program was charged along with another person for beating some man in Santa Cruz.
Yes.
It reached the court, apparently for lack of enough cogent evidence, he was set free. The last police commissioner had cause to remove him from the afternoon program for one reason or other and sent on leave, what they call euphemistically cumulated leave. I would like the people of this country to take very careful note of those 2 situations. And when they come to you in the corridor, if what we are hearing is true, I would like the people in the corridor to be apprised of those 2 situations which I have just outlined to you and to them, which hopefully would guide them in their deliberations on election day. If it is that that individual is being proposed by the opposition to fight to the seat. Okay? Just that. And secondly and finally, I hope, as far as Roger is concerned, I hope that should UNC win the election, Roger does not go about the place feeling that she is going to allow him to reopen the refinery. Because the same Jindal she chased out of Trinidad as being corrupt and in front of some court in India, she may bring somebody along, like him, or some foreign right to be given the franchise to reopen the refinery. And you, with your pity party, Ansel Roger, you will be left to be dragging more effigies and more of those things on the Brian Lara promenade and cursing off Kamala Prasad-Bissessa for a second time as being more corrupt than the word corrupt itself. I just want the people of the corridor to take very careful note of what I have placed before them in my own simple, innocent way about a very checkered situation involving a particular senior police officer who, it would seem, is now being linked to the UNC and to be offered a marginal seat in the East-West corridor. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, let me just get this here. Hold on, Kuma. Winston, I feel you're suffering from the same mental ailment as your political leader, Winston Batchelor. Imagine he puts a comment that says, I'm saying Kamala was weak. However, Franklin Roosevelt was in a wheelchair, Winston Churchill walked with a cane, Reagan had dementia. So Kamala, so good. She spoke on Monday for 2 hours, Rowley can't do that. Where you living? You're a madman? Did you see the presentation of candidates in Woodford Square? You saw how long Dr. Rowley stood up and talked when it is that he made something he said and you heard the fireworks go up and he said, I ain't done talk yet. Something wrong with you? Dr. Rowley sprint up them step on that platform like a 16-year-old. Kamala could do that? He said, hold my hand. Hold my hand. Just now, Ollie. Just now. Let me see. Oh, one. Just all right. Good. You come on this side here. Next one. Right. Winston, you are a joker. You're not serious. I tell you, you continue to disappoint me daily. And then you're going to call me with some kind of platitude to try and think. I see through you already, pal. You're fake. You're a disappointment, just like my partner who I spoke about earlier on. Disappointment. You're not serious. You ain't serious. I feel like I had to lock you off too. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Dom.
Morning.
Kamala said that last year she prepared the election.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going dumb for diving. If you are dumb, all right, you have been guests, right?
Yes.
For a line. You plan your menu, you make your groceries, you buy extra. You know your income for your line.
Mm-hmm.
So, quit the election. If I know election is going to be called just last year, why are you so dumb for diving?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to hell, you're going to wherever, you're going under in the ocean against people, you are proving Kamala, you are a liar, you are inept. If you love yourself, Kamala, step aside. You have to love you. Because if you don't love yourself, you can't love us. And when you say pain and done, you had children, an Orient black man, and you use rape for a point, where's the love? Because rape defiles a person's psyche, male or female. So when you use the horror of slavery for points, Kamala, you are not for African people. Because no mother will defile her child after her child has been defiled. People, be smart. Forget UNC, forget NBA, forget Michaela, vote PNM. People be blessed. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you, Kola. Hello, good morning.
Hey, good morning, my brother.
Good morning, sir. Hi, good man.
I applaud you for the start you took on that former associate of yours.
Yes.
And so I know your upcoming constituents will be in good hands because you stand on principle. Right? And that is important to me. But listen, going forward, right?
Yes.
So last time I was in my weekly commitment, I would have left my device on the TV6. You know, when I came this morning I got almost 16-year-old daughter to school and so on. Say, the really thing on the political broadcast last night, and I'm listening to Kamala. I am a political situation. How she paying for them things? I said, I'm glad you're able to recognize that I joined 16 years ago. So I'm she said, that is mad, she talking about all them properties, where the money coming from. And yet, people who are 3 times and 4 times my daughter are telling us that that's the viable option to take this country forward. And I felt so proud of my daughter this morning, and my children generally, because like I told you, I'm teenagers and I'm young adults, right? And this is what we discuss all the time, right? We just you understand? So much more. And in my own family circle, I've been accused of brainwashing my children. But if that is brainwashing them, getting about what to go for and who has them, that's me guilty. I plead guilty, sir. Guilty. Right? I'm saying in the next 31 days, this is the argument we have to buttress. How is she going to pay for all these niceties that she's talking about? Oh, I forgot. She's going to towards the underutilized fund of the NIP and UPC, not sure?
And the banks now. I will touch on that. Yes, I intend to touch on that.
But I just want to say in closing that the option is quite clear. And if more young persons, first-time voters, go on the fence, will have the disappointment of my 16-year-old daughter, a landslide, or to be in the offense come April the 20th. Have a good day, my brother, and God's speed on that thing.
Thank you. Thank you. Jenny. Hello. Let me get this here. Hello. Jenny.
Hi, morning, Dominic.
Morning.
Morning to all those who looked on to access stubborn things. Dominic, that gentleman you spoke about 2 years ago is no longer your friend. He was always like that, you know. But he was able to mask it until the opportunity arrived. So you actually see who he is. Somebody who just turned from being one of morals and ethics and values and just switched from that like that. It means that they've always been like that, but never had the opportunity or the right space for them to really show the true colors. To the man who is Winston Churchill, whoever it is, and mentioning Winston Churchill and presidents who would have had some type of disability.
Yes.
That is not a proper comparison to what he's speaking about with Kamala Prasad's sister. Kamala Prasad's sister has professed that she's a diabetic, and others would have professed she's a chain smoker and alcoholic. She's 70-something years old. And that takes a toll on you. Kamala Prasad's sister used to walk upright before. Now you actually see a hump on her back. She's curving. You actually feel that she cannot walk by herself. She's very ungainly. She has to have that support. When you look at the size of her legs from her calf come down, it's really thin in comparison to her body weight on top. You look at her arms, it's thinly also, you know, like a calf now being born and trying to stand up. So when you look at all that, and you know what alcohol could do to your brain cells if you have been drinking for a long period of time, it interferes with the cognition, it kills off brain cells. So when you put all that together, Kamala Prasad's sister is neither mentally, emotionally, or physically capable of running a country. She was able to do it in 2010 to 15. Now she's how much years older? With those conditions I would have explained, do you all think that it would have improved? So I leave that there. And I want to say this simply. On April the 29th, if you were to call the diplomatic center, who would you like to be there to answer the phone? Kamla Prasad-Bissessar or Prime Minister Stuart Richard Young? Who would you like to go out to represent us internationally, to negotiate on our behalf, to make sure that Trinidad and Tobago stays a player in the game, that you're not taking advantage of? Would you want Kamla Prasad-Bissessar or David Lee, Barry Paradak, Khadija Amin, Rati Ratiram, Vandana Mohit, Anil Roberts, David Naked, or a minister or Prime Minister Stuart Richard Young? Because those are real questions, you know. The decision you make or don't make on April the 28th could determine if Kamla Prasad-Bissessar, who I just called, will be there to represent us, to speak on our behalf internationally, regionally, locally, to deal with our issues we have in a time where the world is unsteady. Where from, because of the President of America, from today to tomorrow, you don't know where you stand. And he fashioned himself to be a great negotiator, a great deal maker. So who do you want and you think he will appreciate to talk to? Not a negotiator, somebody who you will see worth his time. Do you think you will see Kamla Prasad-Bissessar and that bunch you have there now as anybody worth speaking to? And it's not because I am dismissive of them. We're speaking about the America as it is now. But Make America Great Again is white running things. You think they will consider Kamla Prasad-Bissessar and her team, unfortunately as it is, as being on their level to have a conversation with? Let me really know. Because when Dr. Rowley was the blackest prime minister we ever had, because they say, no one will say all here, that the PNM is a black party. But when the blackest man was there, all they curse him, insult him, lie on him, put his name on the handset of the mother and father to say all them is rapists, and all about he must go. So don't tell me no foolishness now, but no blackness in no PNM. The supporters of the PNM have been largely been from the African community, but the PNM has always been a national party. Has the UNC been a national party, or has it been a Hindu party, seeking the interests of Indian people, Hindu people? But then again, the pundit come out and say, Hindu pundit come out and say, Kamla Prasad-Bissessar does nothing for poor Indians in this country. They suffered under her, that is what he said. But you know who would have benefited? According to Roger, who's standing next to his side, I would have called him wicked and nasty. And the way we're looking at the deeds and the tears and the workers from Petro Trim, who they didn't treat right. It's not the government, you know. OWTU was falling on you and he had to look so. And he got to look worse than that. But he would have told us exactly who it is Kamla Prasad-Bissessar and them would have helped. He said they give contract to friends and family and financiers. You want me to send us here to make it play?
Yeah.
So we know exactly where the money went and what they were giving. So I'm saying all this to say, have you ever heard them say the PNM does only help the poor or Indians or the poor Africans or don't help nobody? Every policy, if you're truthful to yourself, that this PNM government from the inception 1956, within the election and onwards, every government policy of the PNM has been a policy for all that we continue to enjoy. Kamla Prasad-Bissessar has been a beneficiary of the PNM policy, Tim Gopi saying, all of them. I didn't know that policy was free education. That they take them out of the rice field, the children who is to go in the rice field. I do not insult farmers at all, but I'm making a point. That they have to send them to school. And the PNM government, under Dr. Eric Williams, hired school inspectors who went across the Carry Bridge to make sure Kamla mother and them, Munilal mother and father, Tim Gopi said mother and father, and all of them send the children to school. That is what a PNM does. That's why they say when we love you, so we take good care of you. The PNM has taken good care of us. When the opposition was fighting against Dr. Eric Williams to bring national insurance in this country, did they know that? Did they know the opposition, Barish and all of them was fighting? Well, before Barish, that crew who was with Sembonat and them, Capelio and them, they was fighting against national insurance. And look at it today, their great-great-grandchildren, all of them enjoying it. All citizens enjoying that. You work, you pay your contribution. When you retire, you get your money. If you never work with the government, whatever contribution you made, working private or whatever, you either get a lump sum if you have enough payment or something. You have disability grant, social grant, and these children who are Down syndrome and others, from the time they're born, they could get grants from the government that started off at $500. It reached $2,000 now. That has nothing to do with Kamla Prasad Bisset or NAR. It has to do with successive PNM governments. All that we enjoy, all the facilities we enjoy, the lights, the water. You might argue and say it in 100%, but all those things were infrastructure of the People's National Movement, all the roadways, the party bus route. When Mr. Mane wanted to bring the train, all they wanted, so we stay with the bus route and the congestion. But you know what the bus route did? It made people millionaires because they were able to buy the maxi, work the maxi to themselves. Now some of them have 3 and 4 maxi running on the road. It made them businessmen and women. Every opportunity the People's National Movement, based on a government policy put in place, was always to empower people. But some people didn't take it. The youth camps, when they went to primary school and they failed common entrance, you went to post-primary. And from post-primary, you went into the youth camp to learn a trade. Plenty people in the army and all protective services, they come from the youth camp. Plenty seamstresses and hairdressers and nail techs, they come from the youth camp. Permanent secretaries come from the youth camp. Cooks in the hospital come from the youth camp. Tradesmen, best plumber, best carpenter, best joiner, best mechanic from the youth camp. The UNC closed down all them things. But you know, Mr. Panda did when he closed all them things, African children was mostly the beneficiary because the Eastern Corridor. He built a technical school across the Carney Bridge, and the only African that had in it was 4 cleaners. The lecturers was Indian, all the students was Indian. And when Mr. Mane won the election, somebody told him about it. I always hear Mr. Barker speak about it. He said when he went and see for himself, he was moved to tears. And that is how we have UCP. And when the UNC come in, they wanted to done that, they fire Lara, they fire all them big coaches and them who was used to teach. So what they're telling me about asking only again. Them you want to know born and 20 and 18, them feel it was always so. I didn't understand who made them being able to enjoy gate. Because they had it, you know, but dollar for dollar, and because of 50,000, you have to have 50,000. The PNM bringing the have to have 50,000. Just the registration fee about $1,000 and your cost paid off. And then when people start to do them, right? They start a program, they drop out. They start a next one, they drop out. They start a next one, all that has been covered. So you know what has happened now? A mean step. Because you can't go about doing that, finish something first. But the point I'm making at the end of the day, who do you want to be answering the phone on the 29th of April? Kamala Prasad on the UNC or Prime Minister Selective on the PNL? And don't get confused with all that bacchanal all they seen in the UNC and all that. Just like Quicksilver, you shake it up in a bottle and separate, leave it alone, they come right back together and you see that. So people, the ball is in all your court. The future of all your children and grandchildren is all your hands, not the government hand. Not in Kamala hand, not in Prime Minister Selective hand, it's in all your hands. Because the decision only make April the 28th will determine where this country goes from there on the 29th. Dominic, thank you so much. And Saturday is your power walk?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes, we just have to confirm if the Prime Minister would be back in time.
Okay, well, whatever it is, keep paying for me, because I really like to be there. I always promise you from long time, you know that.
Yes.
That anytime you go up as an MP, I'm walking with you.
Correct.
Right, so that's a promise I want to keep. Even if it's once I come and walk with you, I have to keep that promise.
Nice.
Okay, have a blessed one.
You too. This here. Let me just see. Okay, I'm just going over this thing now. One sec, hold on. Let me see what's happening with this. What's going on here, buddy? Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Hey, Brian, how are you doing?
Hey, morning, Dominic.
Morning, sir.
Morning to your listeners and callers. Dominic, no newly minted Secretary of State will make a request to speak to the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago unless he had prior information. None. It is because of what Stuart Young has done in the past, his record, yes?
Yep.
That could have been seen around the world. Because these people don't ask to speak to persons from minuscule countries like Caribbean and so on, specifically. They may take us all in one shot, but not specifically one individual. And it is because of the record of the Honorable Prime Minister Stuart Young SC and what he has done and what they would have seen that Marco Rubio would have called and asked to speak to him personally with respect to things like energy, national security, and so on. Dominic, you cannot overemphasize the importance of energy and somebody being there to articulate on the behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Because without that, we are in a lot of trouble in this country. We saw it between 2010 and 2015 when nothing could have been negotiated because they had no skills whatsoever and they made a mess of it. People must remember that the upstream industries were not the negotiation was don't pay any taxes, don't pay any royalties until 2027. So there was no income coming in from the upstream industries. Also recall that the downstream industry, the chemical industry at Deco, were up in arms and suing people, we the people of Trinidad and Tobago for over $6 billion because there was no gas for them to run their plants. And they was even threatening to pack up and leave. That is the person, Kamala Prasad and Kevin Ramnarine, who was telling us everything good. Those were the people who were there then. We must not forget that. They didn't have a clue what to do. Kamla Prasad Visesa gave all of the gas to the Mitsubishi Japanese firm down in Labre, one plant. And those in Point Lisas were suffering for gas to run their plants. Do we want to go back to that? Kamla Prasad Visesa said on Monday night, we will allow people to drill for gas, oil and gas in Trinidad. If you have any problems, so they call me. Ring me up and I will help you and tell you all what to do. What kind of stupidness is that? And she's going to put instead of the normal energy chamber, she's going to put her own energy chamber. What is Kamla Prasad Visesa telling us? She does not have a clue what she is speaking about. And we have to be mindful that this country could be destroyed in a very short space of time if we don't get up and understand how we have to vote. This is extremely important. Kamla Prasad has no clue what she is doing. By her utterances on Monday, she doesn't know. She's talking about the refinery. She's talking about the refinery. How they're going to raise revenue to even begin that to effect repairs in the refinery. You can no longer flare gas because we are signed on to the Paris Accord. So therefore you have to run new systems in order to put the excess gas somewhere. You can't flare it anymore. How are they doing that? Who doing that? Who local people going to do that? Roche? Roche has no clue. So what are we talking about here? And who is Kamla Prasad Visesa going to get to come and run the refinery? She must tell us. And we must know exactly who they are and what is their record of existence and in the oil and gas sector. She is not telling us. So we're going to go and vote blindly and hope for the best on the 29th of April. We need to realize that it was all a farce and we have to pay for it for the next 5 years, another 3 months or another 14 days. And this time is going to be worse. We have to be careful who we put in that building, in that diplomatic center. We have a tried and tested person in Stuart Young. Tried, tested, and proven. I have confidence in him, and I'm going to be listening to him. I understand there's a news conference this afternoon. I'll be listening for that to see exactly what transpired in Jamaica. It's not going to be easy because Donald Trump is hell-bent on to go in a particular direction. We all understand that. But I have every confidence in Stuart Young as compared to those other people who don't have a clue what to do. And on top of that, you can't even talk to the president of Venezuela because you have muddied, not only muddied the water, you broke the bridge. So there's no bridge again. So who are you going to talk to about Dragon? Who are you going to talk to about Coquina Maniche? Who are you going to talk to about Lauren? Who are you going to talk to? Do they know? Does she know what OFAC means? Does she know how to acquire that license from America? Does she know how to go about doing that? Because ours is going to expire on the 31st of October this year. How is she going to go about doing that? Stuart Young knows what to do, and we have to ensure for our children's sake, our grandchildren's sake, that we don't make that mistake. Because I am telling you, the IMF is waiting. Dominic, do you know in 2015, before the 2015 election, Trinidad and Tobago was downgraded on the 30th of April? And 1 week later, the refinery was downgraded. And she was telling us everything's still good. And they were borrowing money, Dominic, to buy oil to run the refinery since 2014, fiscal 2014, 2015, because there was no money in the treasury. Do people remember recall that. I have received information that there was no money to purchase oil to run the refinery. That is why they were borrowing helter-skelter from anywhere and everywhere. And we had a Governor General of the Central Bank that sat there and said absolutely nothing until the 9th of September when he spoke to the new finance minister. They said only had 3 days' money. They weren't only borrowing to teach Dominic, they were borrowing to supply the refinery because they reduced the throughput in January of 2015 down to 100,000 bare minimum, just so that we'll be able to say the refinery is running and we can supply gas to the regional and the local market. That is how bad it was. I have received that information, Dominic Romain, from somebody who was very, very high up at that time. That there was no money in the company to purchase oil to run the refinery. None. So for almost 1 year, that is why when Joanna Rambarang made the statement in December 2015, that for 4 periods there was no economic growth. And do you know the refinery was also downgraded again in November of 2015? So twice for that year, the refinery was downgraded, and the country was downgraded on the 30th of April 2015. We want to go back to that? To borrow more money again and still owe it over billions and billions of dollars that we have not paid back as yet? From borrowings to teeth and borrowings to run the refinery? Trinidad and Tobago, the biggest mistake we could ever make in our lives is to go and vote for these people and pay as quickly as possible the consequences for those actions, because it will come very quickly. Do not make that mistake. Dominic, do you know that Kazim Ali, between 2018 when the refinery was shut down and people were sent home, and within 6 years after that, he made over $50 million because he was still getting employment in Paria. $50 million, that same Kazim. So Kamala Pasabi is going to give them money as a support. And I have to listen to Prakash Ramada every single Monday morning talking about giving them $5 million each. How much money has Kazim Ali paid the families of those employees who died? It's really 3, not really 4, because one of them was his son.
Correct.
But the other people, how much have they been paid? Has anybody asked that question? Has Prakash Ramana asked that question? Do we know if any money was paid out to those families in compensation? But he asked for $5 million, like if he just pluck it out of the air and just pay just like that. And he knows better. He knows there's a process. But all the other people you mentioned, including Pete Phillips, who's still underwater with Bell Services, nobody asked no questions about that. We studied about 2 weeks to vote for the studying Adrian Leon, who's going to be leaving on the 28th of next month. He is not coming, returning to office. But you're down up to this morning, Prakash Ramana down in the man road. And Saram was saying that they'll be in court holding press conference to ask stupid questions. But they asked no questions about one who has already been selected in Rural Munilal about whether or not he has put in his defense. Up to now, not even making news. Nobody asked him that question. Why? But Adrian Leon's leaving in a month's time. But you want the Honorable Prime Minister not to accept his explanation. You want him to do something about it. And you want the Integrity Commission to do something about it. How come you never ask about the Integrity Commission to do something about Rodal Monilal? And the fraudster, who is the chief whip? No questions being asked about them. But ask about somebody who will be leaving office in a month's time and going his merry way. These are some of the questions we have to ask. Kamala Prasad is telling people, all you go and drill, and don't worry, any problems, you just call me. And I will solve the problem. Don't worry about it. Hey, what she said Monday, who's she talking to? That's how you deal with oil and gas. And you will have your own energy chamber. Trinidad and Tobago, we have to be careful. We have a tried, tested, and proven person. Thank God for that. It's Chotio, now as Prime Minister. And he knows exactly how to speak the jargon with these top-level people. He's on a first-name basis with many of those in the main boardrooms, those global leaders. And that is the type of person that we need. And she can also speak to the president of Venezuela. And we are in good hands. Don't let it slip away on the 28th of April, because we will live to regret it even before Christmas this year. Dominic, thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Dominic.
Morning, Zeno.
Before I make my comments, Dominic, I just want to, I know you wouldn't want to say it, but hear what? People, all you like and share the programs, like it, plenty, like it and share it. That's what I do, like and share, because people need to hear these things. People who may not be knowing that Dominic on YouTube and Facebook. So please, right. Dominic,
yes, ma'am.
You see all that you've given us there for these, past months. Debunking the foolishness I am seeing facing us on our television stations. I am begging the PNM, could you just compile, look at some of the nonsense that is facing people who do not have the facts, and just debunk them on the television stations, even if it's 1 or 2 nights.
Yes.
We could share it and let people know who missed the news or whatever. We could share, because listen to me, there are too many blatant things, and I feel they should put injunctions to stop some of the lies that they share. I don't understand it. People free to advertise and to put the ads, but do not put lies. Especially I see one and a man coming to tell me you were getting $1,000 old age, and when Mrs. Prasad says come, she raised that up to take. Listen to me now. You know how long that pension was $3,000 since Dr. Rowley was there and he increased it. So I don't know what, there are certain things that you don't know here. There's one I see that annoying me. There are cheaper prices at the pumps for gas. Where the hell she getting gas to put it cheaper at the pumps when all you're trying to cry down the manatee and the dragon deal and them out there for us to get gas that we could continue with business? Where are you getting gas to sell to people cheaper at the pumps? When all your dancing, all your happy dance that the dragon deal will fail because of Trump. All these nonsense, you fooling people, all you will not get no cheaper prices at no pump for gas. Who got asking the PNM, let them stop these lies that's being paid for on the television stations. It's vexing and annoying. Right. So all I want to tell people, all you come out, share and like and tell your neighbors, tell your friends, tell your party group members, all you share, talk to people about the lies that are being perpetuated out there. And one thing that vexing me, they take a matter 33 years ago and bring it on the platform, and for the first time as if there's a new word they're hearing, because that's been talking around couple of years, this bullying, this American term bullying. Boys and girls fighting in school from since Jesus walked the earth. So I don't know what they're talking about, that you don't know the story, and who was the main aggressor is the one who went to the battle and beat up Stuart Young, and all they don't know this story. So they leave it alone, and they're so bold and fast asking Stuart Young apologize. Apologize to who? He had a principle in Father Libertad that dealt with it the best way he know how. So they leave that alone. That's something new. Where people calling others names and people fighting and beating. I tired mash up new umbrella my mother buy for me to go to school. Because we used to call one another names, and who can't take it, who want to hit you, and you hit them, and I mash up plenty new umbrella my mother buy. So I don't know what you call that. I know you have to know is where we have to curb it, because children going out there with knives and all kind of weapons, and the fight going to another level. So we really have to deal with it, but it's still more with everybody. I'm like, bullying and bullying and bullying. The hell is that? Listen to me. Dominic?
Yes, ma'am.
Jenny say, my poor old foot ain't going nowhere this last meeting, but even if I have to walk one street with you, but let us where the fight is taking place. And you know you close by, opposite to my area from what you call it, Marvin there.
Yes.
The other side of the road. So you're not far from me, you're not out of my box. So I'll be there.
Yes.
So you keep up the good work and continue to debunk the stupidness that's going on and spouting out there. You understand? And a lot of people know that they're not telling the truth, but we have to share the truth and let people hear. That one, for example, about the gas. I'm glad you talk and expound on it this morning about the gas drug and deal and Stuart Young and how he dealt with the people. Because she cannot give cheaper prices at the pump. Thank you, Dominic. You have a blessed day and morning to all those who love to us. I just get so vexed when I see the store car.
Don't let them set up your pressure.
Shouting. All right, good. Have a blessed day.
You too. So let me say this, right? As Zina raised that issue, I'll probably go to 9:30. Kamala Prasad says that despite the promise that they would reduce the price of gas at the pumps, will do no such things. All right? The price that we pay at the pump is as a result of the gas, of the fuel subsidy. What that simply means is that when you go to the gas station and you take the pump and you put the nozzle into the hole in the gas tank and you fill up, what you pay, the price that you pay at the pump, is not the actual price that it costs to produce a liter of fuel and to get it to the gas station. So that whole process, from the refinery to the bunkering to the tankers to the gas station, there is a price per liter. You do not pay that full price. You pay a portion of the price and the government pays the difference. Okay? The reason why the price of fuel would have gone up is because over the years, the government has been paying billions and billions of dollars in fuel subsidies. So the portion the government was paying per liter of gas, that every liter that you put in your tank, the portion that the government was paying was higher. So in the years when it was lower, government was paying a higher contribution. The government is saying, listen, all this money that we paid in subsidy to the operator, the gas, the NP and whoever it is and these things, right? This money could be better put to use because people complaining they want more beds in the hospital. We could use that money to build a hospital. We could use that money to pave roads. We could use that money to provide social welfare grants and so on instead of paying it in subsidies. So we will increase the price of fuel a little bit. So the average citizen, when they go to the gas station, they'll pay a little more and the government will pay a little less. And the money that the government is saving that they would have been putting towards subsidizing that liter of fuel, they will put it towards other things where the money is needed. Because if we're paying $4 billion in a subsidy, that is $4 billion that we could have been using to pave our road, or to pave roads, or to fix schools, or to fix the hospital, all the things that the people want, because the revenue just isn't there. All right? Larry Hawaii, the man who they paid $11.625 million to leave working for citizens to become Minister of Finance. When he was Minister of Finance, very early, he said there are two things that we can do in order to improve the country's revenue position and get us to a balanced budget position. Remember, the 5 years that they were in office, they ran budget deficits. They spent more money than the country earned. And Larry Hawaii said, in order for us to get to the two quickest things that we could do to get to a balanced budget position, meaning the amount we spend and the amount we earn is the same. So we don't need to borrow money. So we live in paycheck to paycheck, in other words. So for the country to live paycheck to paycheck, to do that, two things he identified. One is to remove the fuel subsidy, and two, implement property tax. Those were the two things that $11.625 million man said could get us the balanced budget. He said that. That is why he would have increased the price of premium from $4 to $5.75 one shot, right? You said doing it one shot, $1.75. I'm going to ram the umbrella up their K-Packs with no grease. But apparently the fully dunces forget when he did that. Because at least Imbert say, yes, I'm going to increase it. We need to reduce the fuel subsidy. The same way the man who was my predecessor, Larry Hawaii, said we needed to do it. And he expressed he explained why we needed to do it and the importance of doing it. And when Larry said it, the fully dunce accepted that. But now when it is the PNM and Power and Imbert do it, all of a sudden they have a problem with it. Okay? $4 to $5.75 for premium. But because the average citizen wasn't using premium and everybody was using super and who using regular, it didn't really care. Okay? Imbert came in and he said, here what? We need to reduce the fuel subsidy, just like my predecessor. But instead of doing it $1.75, one shot, no grease, 50 cents, I will increase it by 50 cents. So I will ease them. Then next 6 months, I will increase it by 30-something cents. So I will do it incrementally at a rate where the people wouldn't really feel it so much at 30-something cents or 50-something cents. Increments. Hawaii didn't say, I will get them 50 cents, and then 6 months later on down the road, I will give you 30 cents increase to 80 cents. And then after maybe another 6 months, I will give you another 40 cents. So I'll give you the 175 in doses. Right? So easy, so you'll get accustomed. He is saying, take that. Hush your mouth. No grease. Well, you're fully done. You don't have a problem with that. You complain about that? No. But coming to talk rubbish now, but really they increase the price of fuel. Kamala Persad-Bissessar is not going to reduce any fuel. You know why? She cannot afford to do it. Because to reduce the price of fuel means that you're going to increase the government subsidy. The amount of money that the government has to find every year to pay the difference. So if it is, you're paying, what's the price of, well, I use premium. Well, let's say just what, $7.70, 6, whatever it is. Can't remember, I just, yeah, right? So if she says she's reducing any fuel by $2, it means that it's $2 less you pay, but it's $2 more she has to find, her government has to find for every liter of fuel that every citizen puts in the vehicle to pay the subsidy. And if you're not paying the subsidy, now understand something. If they proceed and the refinery is opened under Owando, and we start buying fuel from Owando, right? The government has to pay the full price, which is the same thing what they were doing with the Petrotron refinery, right? And therefore, Owando is not going to give them any kind of, or may not give them any kind of concession to say, well, you're owing billions of dollars in subsidies. You have to find it to pay it. And since she is not telling you where the revenue is going to come from, but she's promising you the sun, the moon, the stars, and everything in between, but not where the money is going to come from to do it. Understand? Remember, they took the exchequer account from 10 billion in overdraft to 33, and all they didn't know about that. So when this time they come in and they take it right now, I think it's close to 40, and they take it from 40 to 100, and then tell all you nothing. And they have an auditor general who is partial to them, seemingly, and then saying nothing. Understand the risk that you are at. Okay? Remember why you voted them out the last time. So this dotish talk, but she will reduce the price of fuel and reduce the price of fuel. She will not do it. She will come and give all your cock and ball. We can't do it because we thought we didn't know the state of the treasury and we can't afford it. And the PNM this and the PNM that and the PNM left us in a precarious position. So at this time we can't afford and we would have to find ways to generate the income before we could do that and hit all of that stupidness. And then all of that, well, the PNM do this and the PNM do that. And for 5 years we had to sing that song, but the PNM do this because you all will not accept the incompetence of this individual. You consider yourself one. Before I take this call, let me just draw one more thing to your attention, right? To show you the hypocrisy of some citizens. When it was the other day when the government was expanding the lanes on the highway, the Uriah Butler Solomon Hochoi highway going on there, right? We were seeing a proliferation of videos all over social media, Facebook, about people in traffic, and they complaining how much traffic they're in, and traffic and pressure, and how much hours of traffic and the inconvenience. Inshan Ishmael himself on 2 occasions did videos. He was heading to South, and how much traffic people had to be suffering, and look at the long hours and whatnot and all of that. And they had nothing good to say about Rohan Sinanan and all kind of nonsense. And a friend of mine who lives in Freeport, right? Let me tell you, she posted something on Facebook yesterday. Let me read it for you. Here's what she said. After months of torture with traffic and roadworks, 25 minutes from Fatima to Freeport. 25 minutes from Fatima to Freeport. Before it used to take an hour and a half, 90 minutes according to her. Her son goes to school in Fatima College. She works in Port of Spain, so she'll pick him up when school is ended and take him home. And this is usually, so her working hours are flexible, so she'll probably pick him up, 2:30 minutes to 3 and so on. And she was happy to post yesterday. At that hour of the day, it took her 25 minutes to get from Fatima College on Mukarapo Road to Freeport. And so happy was she that she posted it there. All who was doing videos and cussing the government, oh, this and that, and people suffering in traffic and it's pressure and all of that. Where are the videos today? How many videos they see and I'm doing to say, yeah, look, thanks to the government. A 90-minute commute has now been cut down to 25 minutes. Where them? All of them who was complaining and cussing and quarreling. You see any videos now? You see them putting up posts? Well, I have to commend my friend. But where the rest of them? Happy. Yesterday I had cause to go to Shogunas, and normally when you reach that part there just before you turn off there by Bagwan Singh. Before you reach by the Answer Makal compound there. Traffic normally starts from there, just before there, and it crawling going. Now, when I watch the road clear, I say, but what is this? So the expansion has had an impact. It has reduced the traffic. But everybody who was cussing and complaining before and was happy to go and do live and do video to post up on social media to complain and cuss the government, where are they today to say, good job, Rohanson, and good job, Ministry of Works? They ain't doing that. Yeah. See what the PNM has to contend with? But we will share it. Let's see what I have here. Hello, good morning.
Dominic!
Oh, God, leave it there. Don't come and spoil the trend now. Please.
What's going on?
I am good. Dr. Rowley is no longer the Prime Minister, so you don't have to cuss him.
Look, boy.
Go ahead, leave it there.
Let me say good morning to my sister. Zena, good morning. Dominic?
Yes, leave it there.
I told her you're the only person can help me out with this.
Go ahead.
You know, that depend on you. God don't treat me so now.
Oh,
that depend on you.
Yeah, but don't come and cuss Dr. Rowley now. He gone.
We will talk about that.
All right.
So, Dominic.
Yes, leave it there.
The Prime Minister went to Jamaica to hold talks with Rubio.
Yes.
Do you remember Mr. Mondello?
I do.
And how Dr. Rowley talked down to him in the parliament?
I wouldn't say he talked down to him. He responded to him. But go ahead.
And Mr. Mondello was Donald Trump representative to Trinidad and Tobago. Now the Prime Minister had to go to Jamaica to hold talk with Donald Trump appointee. What do you have to say about that, Dominic? I'll listen up the ear. I'll leave it there.
All right. So first of all, Dr. Rowley didn't talk down to, he responded to Mr. Mondello, as any Prime Minister should, right? He defended the sovereignty of Trinidad and Tobago, and would not, and as he indicated, that they would not be taking dictates in terms of governance of the country, right, and government policy. Okay? And on 2 occasions, Dr. Rowley had to respond to Mr. Mondello. The first time was when Mr. Mondello, on his first outing as ambassador, would have spoken at an event that was hosted by the American Chamber of Commerce, and where he sought to criticize the level of government involvement in the economy. And he had indicated that persons had come to him and asked him if he could advocate for U.S. entities to invest in Trinidad and Tobago. And he said, unlike your country, the government of the United States is not heavily involved in the economy in the U.S., and therefore there aren't many options that he could go to get them to invest. And then again, he also criticized government involvement in the economy because, as he said, that creates an environment for corruption, right? And Dr. Rowley sought to defend the reason why there was so much government involvement in the economy to be able to provide that support. And he was roundly criticized. Even Ralph Maraj wrote a whole article criticizing Dr. Rowley, talking about some kind of diplomacy and that Dr. Rowley thing. And anyway, we have a different prime minister now, different circumstance now. All right? And the fact of the matter is that in order to treat with this situation, it calls for diplomacy. We don't currently have a U.S. ambassador, and an opportunity presented itself, and I would draw to your attention that Marco Rubio requested a meeting with Stuart Young, a bilateral meeting with Stuart Young. Him, his team, and Stuart Young's team. Nobody else. He didn't request such a meeting with the president of Guyana. He didn't request such a meeting with others. Bilateral meeting with Stuart Young and his team, and they sat down and they spoke. What was Stuart Young supposed to do? Say, no, I'm not meeting with you? For the longest while, Mr. Young has been making the point that we need to engage through diplomatic relations with the United States on this matter of the dragon gas. We need answers, and the best person, other than the President of the United States, to give those answers is the Secretary of State. And the opportunity presented itself early on to be able to treat with that. And the timing could not have been better, as we are on the cusp of a general election. And these are the things will help to show who is the better option come April 28th. All right? Who is the better option? And the fact of the matter is that the UNC has no plan, no strategy, no nothing when it comes to dealing frontally with the issue of energy security, and by extension, those projects that are currently in train. Everything that they are proposing is going to generate income probably at the earliest 2030, 2031. We need revenue now, and there was an article that came out just last week where Shell is seeking to bring gas from Dragon, not 2026, but to bring up the timeline, not 2027, sorry, but to bring up the timeline to 2026. So we may not have to wait 2 years to get it, but once it is that this is sorted out, hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood, it's over here. That we a whole year, it could be a whole year before schedule, so we could start reaping the rewards of Dragon from as early as next year based on Shell's timeline. Come on, instead of all you're fighting on the man and fighting on the thing, he fighting for the country. Kamala is not fighting. All she's studying about is jobs for the boys. Eric.
Guys, good morning to the listeners, callers. And I'll say my facts and stubborn things on this Thursday morning. Just officially, it's just 1 month away till we head to the polls to elect our next Prime Minister and Cabinet to govern our affairs in this country from 2025 onwards. Right. Dominic, I don't know why you don't want to waste your time with Lividier. You know. Lividier is an old, decrepit man. Right? He have nobody to talk about because Dr. Rowley is there. Right? Lividier needs some sort of attention. I don't know if you have an attention deficit when he was small growing up, and today he's just trying to look or seek the attention, right? Because from my observation, right, that Prime Minister Stuart Young is going to have a press briefing relative to his meeting in Jamaica yesterday. So leave it there. My advice to you, sir, tune in to CTT from about 1 o'clock this afternoon, and they will sit down and they will hear what was the discussion between the U.S.
Secretary of
Marco
State.
Rubio, Senator Marco Rubio, and you will decide what was the arrangement and the agreement. Don't come here with your rhetoric, right? Be over here. This is an election year, right? Going forward, Dominic, with Roger. Ansel Roger and them is a disappointment in this country. 2 years ago, and back in 2015, you had nothing good to say about Kamala. Nothing good, right? All they want 24% and how much percent all they want. All they studying, if all they get that increase today, what will happen to the country tomorrow? All they studying that. You understand? All they want is to see how they could fill full of their pocket at the hell of the country. And this is my problem, Dominic. We as citizens in this country is to blame for the current state we are in. All we want in this country is gimme, 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 gimme. The more you have, the more you want. At the hell was in the country. Right? Kamala wants to talk about lowering tax and lowering the fuel prices and things. But yet still, you want to give out goodies. Give me, I don't give out this and give out thing and all kind of thing you give out. Where are you getting the money from? Are you going to send this country to the IMF? Based on your interpretation, right, that you and some of your opposition members would have left here to go and have talks with the International Monetary Fund. What country in the world does go to have talks with the International Monetary Fund organization? I know that when a country is crashing, they come into our country, not the reverse. So is it guaranteed, Kamala, that you, if elected, which should never happen, that is going to send this country to the IMF? So are you trying to forewarn the country that once elected, we are going straight to the IMF? These are things people have to understand when they are talking on platforms. Kamala Prasad and the opposition UNC, they are using subliminal messages in their campaign, right? This old man who they use, this pension thing, this ad they using here, right? You telling me 2025 that you cannot add you use Kamala? To who? People in this country have more common sense than Anna Roberts, David Nakin, Philip Alexander, and all of them combined together. That term they're using, coalition of interests, I want people to Google the word interests and they will see why they use that word interests. Their interest is not about the welfare and the development of the country, you know. Their interest is to help themselves and to keep out the treasury, right? Because they find 10 years, the country make enough money now. So we can go there and we can pay and double any money, right? So all of them want to say that the PNM did nothing in the last 9 years and they did nothing at the economic crash and thing, right? Put us there. We got to steer the economy and the health sector and all these things. Kamala and the UNC, we right-thinking citizens know your ploy already, right? It's up to the people in this country to decide if on the 29th of April, if you were to put somebody who will sit down in the office of the Prime Minister to have conversation with international bodies, if they are capable of doing it, right? Because between Prime Minister Stuart Young and Kamala, that come like chalk and cheese, right? What Prime Minister Young is doing is bridging the gap and the different challenges that is taking place. He tried to deal with it on a holistical view, right? And on the other hand, we have the opposition, who is an alternative, I should say alternative, who is not the alternative to the government, right? Only want to put the country in a welfare state. You telling me, Dominic, you did that in 2015, you did it in 2010, you did it in 2020. You coming back with that baby grand stupid talk? You coming back with that baby grand stupid talk? You giving that mother 5, okay, if a mother have 6 children, right? Are you going to give each child $500? I just asking question, or is it the $500 for the household? You see, these are things that people have to understand. If a mother have 4 or 5 children, Kamala, are you going to give each child $500, or the $500 is for the whole household? Right? Stop baffling people with BS. And it have these soft-head, hungry mouth, one of them, who every time on TikTok, costing the government, come and costing the PLM, like, oh, the government is nothing this or the other. I put Kamala there. Only feed if Kamala go there, and they're going to be better, it's going to be 15 times worse than 2010 to 2015. You understand? So the Roger, the Kamala, the Philip, the Lennox Smith, and all of them in that coalition of interests, not my interests and not the right thinking citizen interests, but the interests of all your own personal agenda, right? We as a people in this country have to understand where we're going forward in 2025 and beyond. With Prime Minister Stuart Richard Young, Senior Counsel, now he earned Senior Counsel, he didn't get it or thief it like Kamala and Ram Logan and them. He earned it, right? We have to rally around Prime Minister Stuart Young for the betterment of this country. Because I'm telling you, my fellow citizens of this country, you have it now. If we lose it then, it have no coming back then. It have no coming back. So we have to know where we're going and what we really want in this country to get it developing going forward. We had Vision 2020. The Kamala and them come on, they messed up the country in 5 years. It pushed back to 2030. Right? Development is taking place in the country. We as people and the ones who suffering from didn't get, needs to get off their laurels and go out there and look for opportunity rather than sit down and expecting the government to come and give you a paycheck in your hand every month. I just watch all these young people that be sitting on the block all day doing absolutely nothing, and it's the loudest set of mouth costing and making noise. All them and them making. What's the caliber people they put in to do this as and them? They did it in 2020 with the little child with the mom with the banana. Dominic, which animal is banana? Not monkey. So are you stating that this time around, are they using the same set of people, African people, to do all these dirty ads, especially with this old man who they try to think. You understand? We have to understand where these people are. They don't like African people. All they want is your vote. That is why they cannot put Roger Alexander into the Puna a seat that he is not guaranteed to win. You understand? Why didn't they put him in a safe seat? No, because they put in their people in safe seats. Right? But we're waiting for nomination day. We are waiting on nomination day. And from then, we will start to unleash all the information, all of them. Dominic, a good program. I locked on and listen, and tomorrow evening, we will be bringing it live from down in
Larry Gomes Stadium. Yes.
Right? So people come out and hear our social media principle of facts. Mr. Dominic Romay, the candidate for Malabar Mount-Sika, as he is going to give his maiden speech on his political campaign in the Malabar Mount-Sika constituency. So we're looking forward to that. And then Saturday, we out and bad with Minister Young and Dominic as we walk through the constituency of Malabar Mount-Sika. So guys, tomorrow night, we in Malabar. Saturday, we in Malabar. Dominic, good program. Love to listen.
Thank you, sir. Final call. Hello, good morning.
Good, sir. Hello.
Morning.
Morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
A very pleasant morning to you.
Thank you.
Trinidad and Tobago. Well done, sir, with your recollection of events and what shall happen. Thanks for that.
Most welcome.
Now, let me say my piece,
yes.
Short, sweet, direct. The opposition and their associates, they are moving like it don't have a God. You listen to these people speaking to the island, and we have people living in this island. They may not be so aware of what's going on, but the ones that are aware of what's going on is in the majority. But the little ones that is confused, that seem to be confused and really do not understand what's going on. These are the people that they are speaking to. Now, what they are really doing is lying to the nation, lying to this vast, certain type of people. And boy, what it is, we don't have a God. If have a God, you can't be lying to people just so. To be lying to people is a sin. Every day all you're just sinning and want to win election on just sinning. Mr. Roger, Mr. Alexander, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. Let me unfold the future for you all. You cannot win on lies. You will not win on lies. And you all have to live on lies. When you're speaking to the people, you have to speak to them on lies and with lies. Keep on sinning to the nation. There are those that you will catch in your nets, but it will not bring you victory because you are lying. It have a God. Are you telling me that God is going to assist you with lies to deceive the people? no opposition. The time has come for you all to fall flat down. There's a young lady who's coming and her chances to be opposition leader is great. It is greater than your chances, and her name is Pandy. Miss Pandy. She will not win to form a government, but she certainly will shake you all down. Anyhow, Mr. Dominic.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for everything. Thanks for your program. Thanks for all the people that gave their interest to the government and also to the people. And what I'll say, I know you will be successful. We are using the word and the terminology. We know that you shall be successful.
Thank you.
It is already promised to you.
Yes.
By God Almighty.
Thank you.
Nobody in no part of the world cannot get into no government to run no country unless God allows it. Mr. Trump got through because Miss Kamala Harris made one mistake. And God don't make sure. You cannot say that you're going and bring laws to make man married man and woman married woman. What chances does the young children have? So God took that away and gave it to Mr. Trump. Anybody want to doubt that? I'm sorry for you because you don't understand biblical prophecy. And here it is in Trinidad and Tobago, biblical prophecy is so well exposed that you have to be in it to understand it. Prime Minister to be Mr. Stuart Young, congratulations, you have already won. Thank you, Mr. Dominic.
Thank you, sir. So folks, that's it for today. Unfortunately, I can't take no more calls. It's already 9:41. So thank you for joining me. Always a pleasure to come into your homes on a morning and to, bring the facts. That's what we do. Facts are stubborn things. Cannot be refuted. All right. And we will continue. So as I said, I realize I need to ramp up more. I want to rain on Sharon's parade now that she's on a new frequency and doing her thing. And I know we share an audience, but all of us will work together to ensure that the information gets out, and it's important. And we will battle the UNC lies, the propaganda, and all those who want to talk nonsense about we can have no time for distractions, and you are prepared to turn a blind eye to corruption. Like a man coming in, he tell, hey, there's a bandit, and I come in and I come in, I will rob you. And yeah, that's a distraction. Yeah, I mean, you ain't taking that on. And then when he come and get robbed, how that happen? He told you. He's a crook. He told you he was coming to rob you. It's a distraction. Yes. I mean, that man so disappointed me. So disappointed me. We don't have time for distraction. So you see in articles telling you these people are corrupt. They've engaged in corrupt activity. They're subject of police attention. And you calling that a distraction? And then you want to talk about corruption and talk about PNM corruption. What PNM corruption of recent vintage? You can't talk nothing. You have to go back 5 and 6 decades. You're a hypocrite, right? Shame on you and all those like you who you are upholders. You have joined the fraternity of upholders of wrongdoing. That is what you have done, right? And hopefully the right-thinking citizens of this country will deal with that. And so all of you all who want to support that nonsense, you go right ahead and you go ahead and support it, all right? But those of us who are on the right side, who do not want to see that kleptocracy, that band of bandits ever anywhere close to our treasury again. For all the friends and family who waiting, Because where they getting all of this money from? Ask yourself, where they getting all this money from? To be running ads and on TV and on radio and all of these different things, and to be trying to bribe PNM activists to get people, young people, to wear jerseys and cuss the PNM candidates when they come and try and run them out of the constituency and all of that foolishness. And the kind of money that they're offering me in tens of thousands, where they getting that money from? Understand that there is a payback. So whoever it is financing that, they will expect to get back their money and then some, should they win the election. And where they getting it from? You will pay the price. Okay, so enjoy your day, folks. Make it a productive one, as I always say. And we will chat again very soon. All right? They're saying I see UNC gear run out in South. Yes, I saw the video, but I didn't get time to play it. So I'll play it on Sunday. All right, so folks, we will chat again soon. As Eric would have mentioned, tomorrow is the launch of the Malabar Mausika election campaign, 7 o'clock at the Larry Gomes Stadium car park in Malabar, dual carriageway there. So all are invited to attend. Okay, feature speaker will also be, I'll be sharing the stage with MP for Arima, Penelope Beckles, and we're trying to see if we get a couple other persons to speak as well. But so far, that's the lineup. So if you have the time, feel free to join us. We will chat again soon.